Join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for this wonderful day that we've been blessed with in the Ozarks. Father, we are grateful to thee that we are able to get together as a community and as a governing board, that we might conduct the affairs of the city, and that we might be able to pursue the things that make this community so great and so unique in this country. Father, we're grateful to thee for those who choose to participate, and we ask thee to please bless us now with thy Spirit, that we might have thy Spirit with us to go forth in calmness and in peace, to express our opinions respectfully and non-judgmentally, and that we might be able to make those decisions that are so important for this region. Please bless our elected officials with the power of discernment, that they may understand the needs of the community and that we might serve thee. And we ask these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Eric. Madam Clerk, we'll get a roll call vote, please.
Fenton.
Here.
Denham. Here. Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Howden.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
LeBlanc.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I would like to start off tonight asking for a moment of silence for Mary Lee Simmons, who passed away on June 22nd. Mary Lee is survived by her husband, Bob, her 3 children and grandchildren. Bob was an alderman for many, many years, highly respected individual in this community. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll move on to Alderman Denham. Would you please present Anisha of the Planning and Zoning Department as the Employee of the Month? Is Anisha? There she is.
This is a pleasure. On behalf of the Mayor, Board of Aldermen, City Administrator, and City staff, it is my honor to announce Planning and Development Office Specialist Anisha Coote as the City of Branson's July 2023 Service and Excellent Employee of the Month. This award recognizes employees who've gone above and beyond and whose performance exemplifies the City of Branson's values. Anisha was nominated due to her outstanding teamwork and service. She took it upon herself to teach and support a fellow employee who was filling in and not familiar with the city's new Citizen Serve platform. She took the initiative to follow up with this employee several times to offer her assistance. This dedication and professionalism can be seen daily as she provides first-rate customer service to those who go into the Planning and Development Department. Congratulations, Nish. Keep up the good work.
Lisa's getting a little too comfortable around here. She started to take charge. Next on the agenda is, I have proclaimed July 12th, 2023 as Ray Stevens Day in Branson, Missouri. We're going to start with a short video. We are going to start with a short video.
Went berserk in the first self-righteous church in that sleepy little town of Pascagoula. It was a fight for survival that broke out in revival. They were jumping pews and shouting hallelujah. Well, Harv hit the out dancing and screaming. Some thought he had religion.
Correction. We're going to start with a short audio. I just read what I read. Well done. I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas it is recognized that Harold Ray Ragsdale, professionally known as Ray Stevens, became an icon in his own right in the field of country music and comedy entertainment. Mr. Stevens had a long career spanning many decades, including 2 Grammy Awards, multiple nominations, and a recent induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And whereas it is recognized that in 1991, Mr. Stevens opened his own theater in Branson. This stands as a very significant accomplishment, as the list of superstars that have had their names on a Branson marquee is immense. And whereas the music of Ray Stevens will live on for generations to come, with songs such as Everything is Beautiful, The Streak, and the Mississippi Squirrel Revival. Anybody want to sing along? Now therefore, I, Larry Milton, Mayor of the City of Branson, Missouri, do hereby proclaim July 11th, 2023 as Ray Stevens Day in Branson, Missouri, and encourage our community to celebrate his legacy, the legacy of Ray Stevens, and his contributions through music, comedy, and storytelling in the Ozark Mountains.
Hello to everyone there at the Branson City Council. I am truly flabbergasted that you would see fit to honor me with a Ray Stevens Day in Branson. You know, Branson was such an important part of my life. The years I spent there provided great memories and gave me the opportunity to really connect with my audience like nowhere else I've ever been. Again, thank you for this great honor. Branson, Missouri has and always will have a special place in my heart.
I stand corrected again. There was a video. Before we move on to the public comment section, I want to make a few statements. A few meetings ago, the drag show issue was brought up at this board, and we heard public comments. At that meeting, we instructed Kathy Stepp to bring this item to our Planning and Zoning Commission and our legal team, which they did on the following meeting, which was last week. The drag show issue is not on the agenda tonight. I know I've been told through social media that several were told, tonight we're talking about drag shows, so make sure you show up and share your opinions. The P&Z board met last Wednesday. It is the recording of that entire meeting, listening to public comment. The commission had a proposed ordinance. After public comment, they made some amendments to that ordinance. And so I would ask each of you to go back, it's on our city website, go back and watch that meeting. I would also like to say, with the ordinance that has been created, many of your questions will be answered in what the actual ordinance is that's being presented to this board. That ordinance will be presented to this board at our next Board of Aldermen meeting, 2 weeks from tonight. So the comments that we may hear tonight, just know that a lot of those questions have been answered in the ordinance that will get presented at the next meeting. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have signed up?
We have 13 speakers.
So with 13 speakers, and I believe some will be here on the library topic, and it's your choice. If you're here to speak on the library issue, you can either speak during public comment or you can speak right after the library presentation has been made. With 13 speakers, what I'll ask is, our ordinance says everybody's allowed 5 minutes to speak, and we'll honor our ordinance. Knowing that there's so many speakers, and we have some pretty interesting things to share on our actual agenda, so just in the spirit of time, if you have something you'd like to share, and it doesn't take the whole 5 minutes, myself and the board will be appreciated. Fair enough? And before I ask for the public comment, I'm going to ask Gary Groman. Gary here? Gary Groman has signed up as a speaker. Gary, I'm going to ask him to speak first. And the reason I'm asking is Gary is the chairman of our Planning and Zoning Commission. So he obviously was intimately involved with working through some of the language, listening to the speakers at his planning and zoning meeting with his commission. And so I also felt that what Gary is going to share with us may also answer some of your questions. Gary?
Okay. By the way, you don't ever want to tell your wife it looks like she's gaining weight, I'll tell you. There are posts on the internet and rumors abounding around town that the city of Branson is going to vote on banning all drag shows in town. That is not what the proposed ordinance sent to you from the Planning Commission does. If that were the case, I would not have voted to send it to you. It is obvious to anyone taking the time to read the proposed ordinance, it was thoughtfully and inclusively created specifically not to be a blanket prohibition against drag shows. It contains only those restrictions reasonably necessary to promote and protect the general morals, values, and characteristics of Branson and the entertainment it offers. Those same morals and characteristics causing many of us to call Branson home. The morals, values, and characteristics that form the basis of Branson's economy, an economy which depends on attracting millions of visitors who want to come to a community like Branson for fun and live entertainment because they have similar morals, values, and characteristics. In fact, any drag show currently operating in Branson may continue to do so under the same conditions as they are now operating. Further, the vast majority of drag-related acts that I have seen over the years in Branson can continue to operate even if the same conditions they are currently operating under change. Here's why. Because those acts do not meet the definition of drag show in the proposed ordinance. There is no provision of the ordinance that stops anyone from opening a drag show or performing a drag act that does not meet the ordinance's definitions of drag show. Some of the major conditions of the ordinance include the characteristics of men or women are exaggerated by an in-person adult or group of adults who impersonate male or female characters wearing, quote, extravagant costumes. That's subject to interpretation what an extravagant costume is. The impersonation of a performance is intended to subvert gender stereotypes, and the performance includes jokes, references, dancing, singing, or any other conduct that depicts, describes, or relates to specified sexual activities. And I stop there, there's another section. To prosecute or violate anyone under this ordinance, there must be a performance where the characteristics of men or women are exaggerated by a person impersonating male or female characters. This while wearing extravagant costumes. Further, the performance must be intended to subvert gender stereotypes. To the best of this old man's ability, to subvert gender stereotypes means to challenge, undermine, or overturn societal expectations, norms, or assumptions about how individuals should behave or present themselves based on their gender. That's before the additional requirements relating to sexual activity. What does that mean? When the Supreme Court of the United States was evaluating the definition of hardcore pornography in 1964, the case of Jacobellis versus Ohio, Justice Parker Stewart said, "I shall not today attempt to further define the kind of material I understand to be embraced within that shorthand description. But I know it when I see it." And the motion picture involved in this case is not that. To paraphrase Justice Stewart, "I shall not today attempt to further define the kinds of shows or acts that violate the ordinance's definition of drag shows. But you, I, and those charged with enforcing it will know it when we see it. But one thing I know for certain, the vast majority of drag-related performances of Terry Sanders, Jamie Hagee, Matt Gunn, Cassandra Haygood, and similar Branson acts do not." I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you. So, Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Richie Zaitz, 3000 Green Mountain, speaking on public health.
All right. Good to see you all very much. Appreciate what you do. And I want to give, praise to my Abba, my Father, my Holy Father in heaven for giving me the opportunity to speak. And also I want to let you know that I am praying for all of you on a continual basis. What I see in front of us is trying to protect our families and our children from things that are going to be destructive. My main issue is to stop the distribution of vaccines, which I have substantial evidence can cause miscarriages. And I've been getting this information through doctors. There are a lot of them that don't prescribe it. Why would they not prescribe it? It is a very big issue. So let me ask you a question. Mayor, if we had an intersection and we knew that intersection was dangerous and it was killing people, would you repair that intersection? Would you repair it?
You expect me to answer this?
Yes, sir. Yes? Okay, I would imagine you would say yes, it's dangerous, people are dying. If we had let's say an establishment here that was distributing food and we knew that they were killing people, would you stop them from distributing the food?
Of course I would.
Okay, well, I don't see any other difference between that and experimental drugs that are being distributed and killing people. Have taken away a lot of my friends. Some people are fortunate that they don't die when they get the injections. I don't know how that happens, but it does happen a lot. But my experience and the experience of doctors who prescribe things say that the result of a woman getting the inoculation while they're pregnant is about a 90% chance of a miscarriage. And of course, then there are some working in morgues finding these strange long blood clots, which are created basically from the cobra that interacts with the red blood cells. So all I'm saying, this is my issue, this is what I believe in. You said we were going to have a special meeting. I would expect that you would have a special meeting in which we would provide you with a lot of data. And when I was noticing a really good explanation of how things should be done here in this office and with y'all working here, and that when you say, well, we don't want to do anything, we don't want to disturb the people that have already taken it, we don't want to disturb this, we don't want to disturb the big med, but this is experimental. Again, I say it's experimental. Then why don't we just say, no, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to allow it to be distributed until we have substantial evidence and I'm able to bring specialists in here, which will basically give you more data. And there are potential lawsuits. I won't get into details about that, but when people die, people get very upset when family members are removed from their family. So this is all I have to say. And I'm not in favor of bringing perversion in here. Well, I should do the same thing in regards to the results of people that mutilate their bodies, psychological problems, as well as affecting the children, and the children don't seem to have the capacity to understand. Someone said, well, when they're little, they don't understand. I mean, no, they understand. They get messages. They're very sensitive. They're very open to people prescribing certain types of thoughts and ideas to them. So your role, and I challenge you all, is to protect the citizens and also to listen to the citizens. You're autonomous. You don't have to do a 2030 agenda. When I hear that, I cringe. I'm thinking, you guys aren't really signing us up for that, are you? I hope not, because we know what that is. That's socialism. That's control. That's everybody. That doesn't matter what your moral view is. You'll be controlled. Okay, everybody's going to be controlled, and then we know it goes to the mark of the beast, and all these are prophetically events that are talking about the coming in the future. Let's protect our city. Let's protect our citizens. Let's listen to the public. Let's hear what people have to say and not refer to them, well, please shorten your time. We're sorry that takes time. We don't really want to burden you with that. I certainly don't. But I do thank you for your service. I do thank you, and I encouraged you in the very beginning, and I encourage all of you guys to make moral
30
stands for your
seconds.
citizens, and that we can continue to be a very family-oriented location for people to go to when they want to enjoy the Ozarks. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I was remiss in announcing at the beginning of this that the clerk will give a 30-second notice for those of choosing to use their 5 minutes. There'll be a 30-second notice, and then when the time is up, there'll be a sound. I'm not sure what the sound is. So we just ask you to stay within those bounds. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Bobby Wydeen, 120 Quail Road, speaking on the library.
Good evening. Excuse me. Tonight I speak as an early childhood educator, which I've been in the field for nearly 40 years. Yes, I am dating myself. I am also a library volunteer for Milk and Cookies, a preschool story and activity time. And yes, there is milk and cookies. Reading is a lifelong skill we all need. All children need to hear language to learn language. Receptive language of learning how to listen, like you're doing right now, or expressive language, which I am doing. I am giving an opinion. And for an example, about hearing stories and books, my own child heard all 9 Little House books before she was 9 months old. And it was mostly my husband. Her head was here, the book was here, the bottle was here, and she was read to. And I can tell you she was reading before kindergarten. Children learn to read first by being read stories. Remember lap reading with a parent or a grandparent all snuggled up in a chair, reading your favorite book? The children learns reading skills such as top to bottom, left to right. We're not Hebrew, we don't go right to left, which is another lifelong skill. Without a public library, kids won't have access to books, and that's a problem. We need to get as many books in little kids' hands as we can get. When I was writing this up this evening, I just looked up Books A Million just to see what the cost of books are. So most of the hardcover books for kids, and I'm looking at picture books, were about 20 bucks. And it's just under $10 for a paperback. How many parents can afford that? They can barely afford their rent. And one board book, an Eric Carle, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, one of my favorite books, was over $10. Infants and toddlers need books too. We as a community need to promote reading for all ages and just not on tablets. Blue light is not good for your eyeballs. They'll tell you that every day. So, and I don't think a lot of parents want to pay for glasses. And I'm sure the employers in our town would like employees to be able to read. And everyone needs, one of the biggest things is, and this happened back several years ago, a parent misread an infant Tylenol drop bottle and OD'd their kid on Tylenol because infant drops are very concentrated versus the other preschool size children's Tylenol. So you have to be able to read, and if we don't have a library, that's gonna make it tougher on our poor kids that are struggling right now to read as it is. So please, this is an SOS to our community to save the library. Woohoo!
Thank you, Bobby. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Gary Brennan, 139 Trinity Road, speaking on concerned citizen.
Thank you, Gary.
Our next speaker is Joanne Caswell, 104 Hero Drive, speaking on an alternative option to new ordinance.
Hi, Joanne.
You did clearly say that you didn't want anything to do with the ordinance, so I don't know if this is allowed, but I do want to offer an alternative.
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, I don't think we should have to make an ordinance that breaks our laws. But I understand that the organization that backs these shows is very powerful, very wealthy, and it's an organization to be feared. And I know they have the ability to even bankrupt a small town like this with litigation and whatever. They wield a lot of publicity. But it looks like you're in a lose-lose situation. You either give in to the organization and you destroy the city's reputation for being family-friendly, and you all commit political suicide, or you can stand on the current laws and risk lawsuits to bankrupt the city and commit political suicide. But what if there's another scenario that would give you a win-win? You should at least consider this. The alternative to this town being under that siege of that organization is we let them sue us. We get support from the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, I'm sure some of you have heard of him, are one of the other major organizations that handles these issues. And we get known from the lawsuit, and even negative publicity from the big organization will work to our favor. Everybody in this nation who've never heard of Branson will hear about the siege we're under, and they will bring families here. They will bring businesses here. It will set this town on fire. People from everywhere will want to come and bring their families here to vacation, and good family-oriented businesses will come. All over this nation, people will support whatever organization stands with you, the ACLJ or Liberty or whoever it is. And it would be a high-profile thing, I understand, but you're not going to get away without some profile. So, and then all of you will become heroes for saving the town and saving the reputation as being family-friendly. And all you have to do is just decide, don't make a new ordinance, take your existing laws and enforce them, and come what may, you don't have to stand alone to fight it. Okay, that's mine.
Thank you, Joanne. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Barbara Fairchild, P.O. Box
What?
2287, speaking on
What?
enhancing Branson.
Barbara Fairchild is in the house.
I never put my address on one of those before, so I just put my P.O. box up. I didn't realize I needed to put my street address. Couldn't think of it at the time. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about, and I don't necessarily want to address the ordinance, because I don't know a whole lot about this whole thing. I know some of the folks on the front row there, and so I've never seen the show, but I guess if you keep doing it, I need to at least go check it out. But only once, okay. But anyway, what I want to address is there's our country and everything is under such attack. Our freedoms are under tremendous attack. Freedom to live our lives the way we see fit, and I believe we should live it according to God's laws. And when we see the impact of this kind of thinking and what it's having on our children is very frightening. And trying to bring our kids up morally and where they dress like kids and they don't show their hind ends or whatever else they show. We're trying to bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord and to be modest. And because I don't think young folks should be walking around with so much of their body exposed, and it's not good for the young boys that's growing up too. We want people to think morally like they should so that our children don't become victims because of this kind of thing. And it's almost a laughing stock to care about modesty. And these kind of basic foundations we need in our town. We need it in America, because America's going to hell in a handbasket in a lot of areas here. And it's going to take us having guts to stand up for what's right and morally right. And so I'm not going to judge your show because I ain't seen it. But we do need to guard our boundaries and what Branson is built on. And when I came here, I only came here just to work a little bit with Mel Tillis 1 year, but I never left because I fell in love with Branson and didn't want to live anywhere else. And so it's very important that we hold these values, because there's not a lot of places like Branson. Do we just want to go the way of everyone else? And because it's the trend and the thing to do, and so much destruction can come in that just being part of what everybody's doing. We have to have a firm foundation, and we have to guard it. And because we could lose our town so quick. And I'm not just talking about drag shows or whatever. I'm talking about our moral foundations of what we need. And people used to come to Branson and say, I didn't know there was a place like this. And it's very important, I think, that there is a place like this, and that other folks will know they can come safely. We didn't have to lock our doors in our cars or in our houses. We didn't have hardly any crime here. And we need safe places like that to live. And I love this town. I don't want to, when I move from here, I want to go to heaven, because I love living here. And so you have to make these kind of decisions, and we should make them as citizens. And I just kind of got my say. I believe it or not, I'm going to shut up with a few seconds left. Okay, love y'all.
Thank you, Barbara. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Michael Phillips, 3221 Shepherd of the Hills Expressway, speaking on drag shows.
I gotta follow Barbara? Wow. I love you. We love Roy too. But I want to quote some facts. Bud Light's Anheuser-Busch stock has lost $27 billion over Dylan Mulvaney ad fiasco. Target has lost $15 billion in market value since tuck-friendly swimwear became a thing. Disney has lost $900 million on its last 8 woke studio releases. Ben & Jerry's parent company has lost nearly $2 billion, not that much compared to the others, since their July 4th tweet about indigenous stolen land. Americans are proving in absolute certainty that to go woke, you go broke. It was adequately stated that we are in a no-win situation. I do not agree with her, not even 1%. There is only one decision, and that's God's decision. I came before you and spoke on the Shepherd of the Hills the last time in Corey ten Boone's prophecy. And I also talked about my connection with you, Larry. But I'm here today not speaking on the promise, but I'm speaking on the judgment to come. There is a moment in which legacy trees will be uprooted violently because of simple decisions that were made out of expediency and out of a lack of discernment. A couple of years back in Springfield, they had the sexual orientation and gender identity bills that forced pastors to hire gays and lesbians. We are coming to a day and age where that could not only be mandated upon us by force, but by an administration that does not see fit to care about anybody, not even a local community. I actually urge you guys to stand on the principles of Branson, on the prophecies of Corrie ten Boom, and to declare that these things are not morally right, period. It doesn't mean we hate them. We don't. T. Roy, I love him to death. He's one of the coolest individuals I've ever met. And just the same with other actors in our city like Terry Wayne Sanders. When I took a private poll, 92% of all of my Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, and Marine veterans stated, we leave if this passes. There have been other military organizations like a military vacation network that have vowed to pull support on this as well. The numbers do not lie, and next session, I look forward to actually disclosing that information if it comes to that. But I am urging you to stand with the people of Branson. Although uncomfortable, we will back you. I'm yielding my time.
Thank you, Michael. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Kevin Vogan, Independence Branson, speaking
Vaughn,
on
is
drag
it?
show. Apologies.
Vaughn. Yeah.
It's Vaughn.
Got it.
So I'm going to make this quick. I just have a question about the ordinance. I did watch the last meeting.
Good.
And the district in which it is set to be held, I mean, we'll be grandfathered in, granted, but there's not very many bars there. I think one that could actually hold a drag show, or some of the possibilities of things that we were trying to get to come to Branson. So that would be my only issue with that. And then I'm not going to beat a dead horse. You guys don't know us. We're not what you say we are. So live and let live. Learn who you're talking about before you try to talk. So, and we'll see you guys next one.
Thank you, Kevin.
Our next speaker is Troy Shirley, Independence Branson, speaking on drag show.
AKA T-Roy.
Hello, everybody. As you know, I am T-Roy. I am from here, born and raised. We didn't bring drag here for anything except enjoyment for adults. That doesn't mean that there's nudity or sexual in your face or cuss words or anything like that. It's very tasteful because I love Branson, Missouri because it's my home. I am not here to put down anybody because, as I said the first time that I was here, I love everybody. I'm not a judgmental individual. Why would I? Why should I be? I live in this world just like everybody else. So please don't judge us unless you know us or try to get to know us. I mean, as Mike said, and Barbara, I love you to death, and thank you for your speech and everything. But come and see the show for sure. We have had all kinds of religion individuals at our show that has returned to our show because of the very tasteful and respectfulness of the show itself. It's not just a drag show, but it's a drag production and variety show because I also perform in it. I am a singer, and I started out every show that is there. I'm not a drag queen, but I am who I am. I love who I am. And I have individuals in here that love me as well. And thank you for that, because you gave me a chance, and that's all I want. And thank you for the grandfather in, because we want that for the loved ones that are killing themselves because of the hatred and the judgmentalness of Branson. Shouldn't be like that. Branson's a loving place, supposedly. I mean, I was raised here, and the values are absolutely phenomenal. But how far does those values go? on judging individuals, hating individuals. No, that's not Branson. Branson is an all-loving Branson. No matter what religion you are, no matter where you're from, families of the LGB come here and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm not telling you to accept that, because that's not what it's about. I want them to come to feel welcome, just like everybody else. We have had individuals fight for our country that are from the LGB, and they deserve equality and diverse, just like everybody else. That's all we're asking for. Nothing any more than that. And that's all I need to say. Come to the next show, check it out, And then if you want to judge. I don't care. Peace and love and harmony. I love y'all.
Thank you, T. Roy.
Our next speaker is Josiah Butterbaugh, 132 Foley Street, speaking on drag queens and hate.
Josiah, a.k.a. Tiny.
Good evening, Branson Board of Aldermen. My name is Josiah Butterbaugh.
Tiny.
Not only have I been...
Would you speak in the mic, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a little bigger than the mic.
Good evening, Branson Board of Aldermen. My name is Josiah Butterbaugh. Not only have I been a member of this community for 30 years, I'm a mentor, advocate, trusted adult for the youth, and a gay Christian. I am a child molestation survivor at the hand of a straight man. I'm a sexual assault survivor at the hand of a classmate when I attended ministry school who is indeed a straight man. When I reported it to leadership, I was told there must have been part of me that liked it. I am also a bully survivor. These things may just be situations to you, but for me, it was years and years of trauma and hardships. These traumas led to the point of feeling so worthless and hated that I thought attempting suicide would make everything better. I thought God hated me, but I know my God made me just the way I am, and he doesn't make mistakes. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a big people person, and I love big. After the last meeting I attended, it is a little difficult for me to be up here because never in 30 years have I felt so hated because of who I am. This evening, I'm here to discuss the sensitive subject of drag shows and to clear up some things that were uneducatedly spoke upon at the last time I was here. There are gay men and women in just about every show on the strip in this community. Let me define drag queen for you according to Merriam-Webster, because I do think it's important to cite where you get your information from. Merriam-Webster's the definition of drag queen is a person, and especially a man, who performs as an entertainer in usually female drag for entertainment purpose. According to the Webster Dictionary, a transgender is relating to or being a person whose gender identity differs from the sex the person had or was identified as having at birth. And if you know anyone named Steve, please raise your hand. Because a lot of people like to say God didn't make Adam and Eve, he didn't make Adam and Steve, he made Adam and Eve, but that is just not true, because anyone whose name Steve was made in God's perfect image. So many families from the LGBTQIA plus community that bring their families here on vacation, but if you start to make rules to keep us in a box, they are not going to want to spend their tax dollars here. We are here. A majority of the people in this community attend one of the many Christian conferences that are held in this town each year. And the country shows and family shows, even magic shows, this town has a lot of options. Do I attend the shows? Not very often, but that's my choice. Just like if you don't want to go to a drag show, then don't go. We're not telling you to have to go to a business for adults. We're adults making adult decisions. This community has come to you to tell you to shut down an adult event, not because it's a danger for the children in this community, but because they hate the LGBTQIA plus community. Instead, this community supports an organization just across the lake because they do it in the name of God, but they've had multiple counselors prey on our children, and the director sweeps it under the rug, uses money to keep families quiet. To end this, I want to share my favorite quote from a gay rights activist, Harvey Milk: "Hope will never be silent."
Thank you, Tiny. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Brian Seitz, 1805 Miller Drive, speaking on entertainment.
This is Representative, State Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I am State Representative Brian Seitz, and I want to congratulate the Board of Aldermen, the mayor, and the city administrator for the handling of the current issue, specifically the drag show issue. I think you're going about it the right way by using planning and zoning with time and place restrictions, because there is constitutional First Amendment rights involved. So I think you're doing a good job taking it through planning and zoning. My concern is, having read the possible ordinance that will be coming probably the next Board of Aldermen meeting, is the word child is in there. I would like to see any ordinance presented by the board to, for the drag shows to be age 21 and above. No children should be allowed to view this form of entertainment in the city of Branson. So, I realize that our hands are tied with constitutional issues, but it's the children that I care about, and I would like to see anything that's done be 21 and over as far as that issue is concerned. Because the library folks are here, I'm going to segue into that. I've supported the library here since I came to the town in 1990. I've been a card-carrying member, except for the short period where they took out the science fiction section, and I couldn't believe it. So I turned my card back. I went in. It's back now because I raised Cain, and my card's back in my wallet. So I appreciate the library here and in any city in Missouri. I've been an avid reader since a very young age, and my grandson Kal-El is now 19 months, and he's read a book he's been read to every single night of his life before he goes to bed, including sitting on my lap last week. So I think the library here in Branson deserves support. It's very important, so I encourage the community to get behind the current initiative. God bless everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Vanessa H., Blue Eye, Missouri, speaking on drag queen shows and venue.
Feels like the price is right. Come on down.
Respected Mayor, Aldermen, and city officials, I sincerely appeal to you about the eternal impact of decisions you make as guardians of the city. Going to the Hebrew roots of my name, Hadassah, we are reminded of a true queen, a leader and petitioner better known as Queen Esther, a woman who used her voice for such a time as this. My life is a series of divine appointments, the most recent being that here I am addressing the mayor, whose wife and I share the same name, Leanne. That's my middle name. God planned the moment, even as my dad chose this beautiful name for me, his baby girl, a name that was so foreign to our native land of India. I'm here today because a sweet missionary lady who lives not far from here, she brought the love of Christ to the children in a city of approximately 15 million people. I was one little girl who was impacted by the message and received Christ into my heart. Fast forward, also in this region, my beloved husband received Christ into his life at a Kanaka camp meeting. So here we are, full circle, back in Branson. Why? On several visits to the region, we repeatedly enjoyed the little yet meaningful distinctions of Branson: family, faith, friendly people, patriots, and natural beauty. We were so blessed by respectful teens where we shopped, patriotic servers while we dined, servers who promptly pulled out their phones to proudly show us their kids and grandkids, loved ones serving our United States of America, often deployed overseas, protecting the freedoms and families of people in foreign nations. Now, I appeal to you on behalf of their kids and families, and every family under your jurisdiction. You wear many hats. as respected leaders, businessmen, and women. But the most important hat you wear is dad or mom, more dearly as grandpa or grandma. And this is the role that I address. In your delivery of the State of the City address in March 2023, Mayor Milton, you called Branson vibrant and thriving, rooted from a deep respect for faith, family, flag, and freedom. You went on to say, we proudly back our police and fire departments, salute our veterans, cherish our freedoms, and champion the values that have made our city a top travel destination for millions over multiple decades. So why does one want to find ways to sneak in shows and blur the lines to accommodate venues that are a polar opposite to what makes Branson this unique destination? A place far different from the other entertainment cities like Los Angeles. A place where families can enjoy the purity of families entertaining families. Why are efforts being made to amend existing codes in order to allow shows and venues to get a foot in the door? Drag shows and venues may need a special use permit within defined areas of operation. However, how do you propose to prevent an entertainer from expressing themselves outside the designated areas? Who's going to ensure that the proposed shows and venues keep to the recommended 600 feet distance from places of worship, schools, parks? Will our law enforcement officers be burdened with yet another responsibility? Respected officials, why don't we build an Anne Frank museum or an interactive venue which highlights the stories of inspiring young children who made a difference in this nation and around the world? There are numerous heartwarming accounts of amazing children. Their inspirational achievements can fan to greatness the dreams and ambitions of this generation and the ones to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Madam Clerk?
Our final speaker is Shelley Evans, 403 Truman Drive, speaking on library issues, raising taxes, road humps on Truman Drive, big RV, and commercial traffic also an issue.
Within 5 minutes?
Hi, I'm Shelley. Thank you for listening to what little I do have to say. As far as the library goes, I think we're going to discuss it yet tonight.
Speak in the mic, please. Thank you.
But one of the issues that I was reading about is that there's a class coming up, or there's a group of ladies that are getting together, I think it's in Forsyth, and they were talking about a percentage of raising taxes to support the library. So I'm just hoping that that's covered tonight in the conversation. So that's really my library question. The other is, I would love to see, I'm from a different state, you may notice, community education, where local people, teachers, people that have a gift to teach people, you know, whether it be sewing or any other type of training, would be part of the library. I know that they do offer some things for community, but I just wondered if that was something we could look into. It works out really well because a lot of people get to know other people. I've done a couple of them. They do like sign language and different things that someone's comfortable doing that could teach it, that people would pay, you know, maybe $10 or $20 for a week or 2 or 3 weeks of training, and then the percentage, high percentage, would go back to the library. Just another way to raise funds. And then my Truman Road issue, that's kind of an ongoing thing with y'all. That is a big issue. I just yesterday had to call Big Cedar because they had the extended big white limo van, stretch van, go down the road. Now, anybody who knows Truman, it's just one single road that goes from 76th the Strip. It is the perfect, I hate to tell people this, perfect road to cut through to go to Rourke and get the heck out of there. But the problem is it's an old community. There's no sidewalks. There's 2 sets of stop signs, all-way stop signs. My stop sign, the one that I'm closest to by Miller, 3 out of 5 might slow down. I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane. And we've got a lot of neighborhood pets. We have particular people that love to go out and walk. Again, there's no sidewalks, so it really becomes an issue. And there are signs on both entrances to Truman. I don't know the exact wordage, but it talks about commercial, like RVs not to go through and that type of thing. I don't know if there's any possibility of extending that or defining it, because I feel bad. Some of the mom and pops around here are just trying to figure this town out. I mean, it's, you know, it can be a nightmare, plus if you're pulling one of the big RVs. So I just wondered if we could define that a little bit better, because it really does matter, that road. A few of us do park on the street, and that limo blocked traffic for about 5 minutes. Because he barely, you know, you add a stopped car at a turn, and that's what happens. And it's the same thing with the RVs. When these folks are pulling them, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal. So that's it. Thank you.
Shelley, I'll address a few of your comments, especially about Truman Road. I believe, and I'll be off a little bit, but last year, our road improvement budget was 1.2 million. This year, we increased to 2.4. We are, starting the end of this year, replacing neighborhood water and sewer lines. But Shelley, if you would leave your contact information, I will have our city administrator follow up and listen to your specific ideas. You talking about me down there?
He was, not me.
That's funny. So Shelley, please leave your contact information. We'll get back with you.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yes.
We have a number of people here tonight with signs, supportive of the library, which is awesome, and a couple others. And we're just going to start enforcing some rules that we don't allow any props or anything like that. I also wanted to address something that Representative Seitz said, because I just don't want any confusion to be going from here. The mention of children in the ordinance refers to not blocking of a school play that might have, maybe it's a boys' school and they're all playing, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any confusion going away that this mentions children or anything like that, but I understand where you're coming from. And then Kevin, I think we can get some of your questions answered as to why the ordinance is written the way it is, buddy. So, all right, that's all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to addressing the specific ordinance. My understanding is it's not going to please 100% on either side. I think we are staying within the Constitution and trying to work this through. So I'm looking forward to that meeting. I would like to clarify a few things also. I have a few critics out there. There's one. The downtown area that's described in this ordinance does not include Branson Landing. I've been accused of, I'm the mayor, and I have a business at Branson Landing, and isn't it convenient that the mayor's putting this area in a place where he has a business, all right? He can personally benefit by being able to do these and not allowing anybody else. For the record, my business is not within the district. Oh. Oh, that was Bill Skanes. I don't want to mention names, but it was Bill Skanes. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
You know, we just had July 4th, right, which celebrated the independence of our country. And when we opened up with the pledge, I got to tell you, we're not far off. The unison, the power that we all had collectively in this room was palpable. Like, I felt like every voice, the resonance that we have as a community when we act together is literally unstoppable. And that was an amazing feeling. I literally, like I said, wow, I don't know if any of you heard me. I was like, wow, thank you, because I felt that. And that was everyone collectively in this room together that made that happen. And that's the power that we have when we start acting together, when we start thinking together, when we open our hearts, our minds to the limitless possibilities that we have as a community. So thank you all for that feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman LeBlanc. Thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that's on the consent agenda that anybody in the audience would like to see brought down and discussed? Any items from the board? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, you're on deck.
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the June 27th, 2023 study session and June 27th, 2023 regular meeting. Final reading of Bill Number 6324, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Blevins Asphalt Construction Company Incorporated for 2023 mill and overlay of various streets and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill Number 6325, an ordinance approving payment of incentive fees to SMG Branson Convention Center's Management Company in accordance with the terms of the management services contract. Final reading of Bill Number 6327, an ordinance approving the lease agreement with Skaggs Community Hospital Association, DBA Cox Medical Center Branson for the operation of the Cox Health Fitness Center at the Recplex and authorizing the mayor to execute the lease. Final reading of Bill Number 6328, an ordinance amending Section 1-2 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to definitions. Final reading of Bill Number 6329, an ordinance amending Chapter 94 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to marijuana facilities. Final reading of Bill Number 6330, an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat for Stillwood East, Branson, Missouri. And final reading of Bill Number 6331, an ordinance to approve a street vacation for a portion of Sunset Lane located in the Pinkley Heights Addition, Branson, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor to execute the documents related thereto. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
So do I have a motion approving the consent agenda?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, you're going to keep, tonight we're going to,
I am manually clicking in PrimeGov, and you guys are voting by voice.
okay, we're making a little change there. So you're going to let me know when I can take a vote, voice vote,
And this was,
which-
yes, sir,
and which one's a roll call vote.
correct.
And this is a,
Roll call vote.
Madam Clerk, would you now provide a roll call vote on the consent agenda?
Fenton,
Yes.
Denham,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Howden,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
LeBlanc.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Your Honor, the next item is a presentation on America's Wall of Honor, a traveling veterans display wall to come to Branson during Veterans Week.
So I will be giving a minor, just an introduction. Thank you, T. Roy. I'll be giving an introduction to this, and this is Tim. Tim's with his partner Dan out of Omaha, Nebraska. This America's Wall of Honor, Tim's going to share with us what it is. Tim has also been limited on the amount of time he's been allotted. But after Tim's presentation, I will ask Chief Smith in the audience. There he is. I'm going to ask Chief and Marshal Howden. They went up to Omaha, Nebraska to physically view this wall themselves. So I'm going to ask them to share a few comments. And Tim, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor and Aldermen. I had a whole list of things I was going to say, and I've been sitting in here and I thought, well, what I have to say is meaningless now. And I left my notes there because now I think I need to address the mayor, the aldermen, and the citizens of Branson. I'm not from Branson. 4 months ago, I didn't even know what Branson was. I kind of knew it was a place in Missouri, and I happened to come here for an event, and I was introduced to Branson and the community that you are, and you may not know this, but I believe it with all my heart, and after being here today, I believe it's ordained from heaven. Branson might be the most patriotic city in America.
Oh, correction.
I have to say might.
You say might. This mayor says we are the most patriotic city in
well,
America.
that'll be proven in 2026.
That's right.
In December 2016, I started designing America's Wall of Honor. And in 2019, I moved from Los Angeles to to Omaha, which is another city I kind of didn't even know existed, and started building America's Wall of Honor, which is a 57-foot, 10-foot tall traveling monument to police, fire, and all the veterans and the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. And we call the tour that it's going to go on to all states Patriot Thunder. And when you stand in front of this wall and when you experience Patriot Thunder, it's otherworldly. And there's few cities that deserve for it to be showcased there like Branson does. So when I first came here 4 months ago, Dan and I were stunned at Branson. Branson is, you said it earlier, Mayor, it's the heart of America. And the woman that was up here talking about the values of America, they are under assault. I have been in 30 states in the last 8 weeks, driving, by the way. I have not found one community like Branson, not one. It's true. So when Dan and I came here, we realized that the wall had to come here. Not long after realizing that the wall had to come here, we realized that it had to come here every year of the 5-year tour, which is something we just did not see the resources of doing. There's too many places it needs to go to. Then we realized after that not only did the wall have to come here for 5 years, it had to stay here after its 5-year tour. We've been here several times scouting. We're going to be 4 days for the week of Veterans Week. We're going to be 4 days at Freedom Encounter. Then we're going for 24 hours up to the Hard Work U, and we're going to be next to that memorial. And then we're going to spend 2 days and evenings at the landing. I truly believe, especially after sitting here for an hour, that this country needs your help. It needs Branson's help. It needs you to be strong. And it needs you to support the veterans and the first responders and the kids. And you need to say, America is like us. And you need to push back. And you know what I'm talking about. And you will see that when we're here. And we're dedicated to being here in November for 7 days. And I'd like to invite you all to come up and say, hey, I heard your speech at City Hall. We need some financial help to be here, and we want the city to help us. We need $100,000 to be here that week. We will commit to being here for 7 days, and we'll commit to being here every year thereafter. We won't need help after that. We're unveiling the wall in Omaha in September. The first Lifetime Achievement Award, Patriot Thunder Achievement Award, is going to Tony Orlando. He's going to accept it. He told us that today. The man that is going to give him that award in Omaha is your mayor. That's right. That's how powerful Branson's message is. I haven't really felt hopeful in all these travels until I came here. You guys do have to be tough. You have to be tough because you might be the beachhead. And, oh, it is, definitely is. So, I think the voice of 20 million veterans supporting Branson being the most patriotic city in America, a lot of your issues will sort of be resolved in that message. Yes. We think we found a home, and we'd like to explore that with you, aldermen, the mayor, and the citizens. Now that you've heard of this, you can look us up, America's Wall of Honor. I believe with all my heart that it's supposed to be here. It's going to travel the United States, but when it's done, it needs to be here. I believe that veterans from all over the country every year will say, I got to go to Branson to see the wall this year on Veterans Week. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's the first responders as well, but it's the veterans too. That message is in your hands, and it's for the country. And I think you guys have an awesome responsibility ahead of you, because there's a lot of cities that need to see that somebody's taking the lead. So please take the lead, and we're here to help. We're here to help with America's Wall of Honor. And we'll see you in November, if he provides the help, which I think you will. Any questions? Anybody?
Tim, I'm touched that I know you had a formal presentation, and I'm touched that in listening to the hour of public comment, that you also are touched on the message, the beacon from this community.
It's strong.
It is very strong.
It's clear and strong. But I will say this much. In the last couple of months, I've asked, I'm a veteran as well, if you consider the Air Force part of the military. I mean, we have airplanes, and they fly. I've asked 20, 25 veterans, and hey, you know, we're going to be in Branson for Veterans Week. And they're like, what? Well, for what? They didn't know anything. Janelle's traveling with us. She's coordinating some things. She didn't know it either. So a little outside perspective. You guys all know that you are all about American values, the veterans, first responders, and the American way of life. Very clear to people that know it. But believe it or not, most people don't know it. Most people don't know it. And we would like to change that. I believe 90 days after the unveiling, which is in September, and you're all invited, by the way. Well, I don't know if we could fit them all, but we're having 3 days in September. First night will be with Tony Orlando, because he deserves the Lifetime Patriot at Thunder, a Lifetime Achievement Award. He does deserve it. And we're happy to have, oh, and by the way, that's sponsored, it's coming from the mayor. So I believe that within 90 days of that event and the week, the Veterans Week, America's Wall of Honor will be the most photographed wall on planet Earth, because it's so visual. And you don't have to take my word for that. There's 2 people that are come up here and say, yeah, I saw it. It's not bad. So that's what I have to say. I feel it. I can sense it. So you guys are bigger than Branson. You might be all of America. And can I talk about 2026 for 1 minute?
Sure.
Your mayor said, we're the most patriotic city in America. And I said, oh, okay, I'll go along with that. And then we got to talking about it. We said, well, why don't we announce a challenge? 2026 is the 250th anniversary of this beautiful, wonderful, noble country. Why doesn't Branson throw down the gauntlet to the country and say, hey, if you think you're as patriotic as us, we're going to challenge to see what city is the most patriotic city in 2026. That will be fun. And America's Wall of Honor will be in your court for sure. But I think to get the title, I think that is something that is rejuvenate the whole country, starting right here. You guys already have it. It's all good. Let's just get it out there.
And I'll let a little secret out of the bag. I am looking forward to this national challenge to all the other mayors, because what they don't know, and I'm not going to tell them, so don't tell them. I asked Marshall a while back, and it's been a while, but something we have in our little bag to support our patriotism. How many cities can compete with Branson when Branson has over 5,000 live shows every year that honors our veterans? Right? We can talk about the flags and the fireworks and the this and this and that. 5,000 live performances honoring our veterans every year.
You're already in the lead.
Well, that's up my sleeve. We won't tell them that.
No.
And I'll tell you, I do think, and what Tim's suggesting is this challenge is going to come in September in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, you're going to announce it.
I'm going to announce it, and I tell you, I'm hopeful we can get Fox News or get some national press on that challenge.
We will. We will. That will come. I believe, well, after being here today, I know it'll be there. It's supposed to happen. One thing Dan was reminding me, and sometimes you get up here and oh, Dan, thank goodness. This is, I'm the artist. I'm the guy that designed it and built the wall. Dan is the business side of all this, and it's big. Go ahead.
Thanks, Tim. Just real quickly, in addition to the Wall of Honor, starting next year on our 5-year tour, there's more to it than just the wall. We are adding 5 museum education centers, mobile museums, double expandable semi-trailers. One on the military, one on first responders, one on education for the kids about true American history, the Constitution, all that stuff. One is on how America works. And like College of the Ozarks, that one's going to focus on, you don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful. Learn some trades. We need more people in our trades. And the last museum education center is the Spirit of America Art Museum, which is realist art with all of these themes. So that whole setup takes about 1.5 acres. The wall is 60 by 10 feet. This is 1.5 acres. And in 2026, we're going to hit all 50 states in 50 weeks. And that's about 3 days in each state, because we want to spread that celebration of our birthday, the 250th birthday. But so when we come back after this year, Mayor, if you want the whole Patriot Village, which is what we call it, we'll need 1.5 acres, so it won't fit on the landing. But that's coming. I just wanted people to know about that.
Chief, it may fit at the police station. Chief, would you get up? Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Hey, Tim. Would you, and I apologize, I'll get that, but could you distribute that to our city clerk, and then she'll get it to pass us down? I'll make sure the aldermen get their copy before they leave today.
Mayor, members of the board, as you mentioned, I got to go visit it with Marshall and a few others from town here, and I can't adequately describe it. It is just immense. It is absolutely gorgeous. The fine work he's done with metal and light and how they combine are just incredible, and it's actually just awe-inspiring. But I really want to encourage everybody to go to their website and take a look, because even more importantly for me is the video that discusses what they want to do with the semis that come with the educational pieces of it. I've told my family or my friends over and over again, this community represents what 1950s America was all about and what made us so strong as a country. This project is hopefully helping recenter the rest of the country on those values and those important educational pieces, vocational things, respect for the military, your first responders, all the stuff that made us so strong back then. So I very much am in support of this project and absolutely love what they're trying to accomplish.
Thank you, Chief. Marshall?
I don't know if the audience can quite grasp exactly what we're even talking about that this piece is. And I'm not an engineer, so I might not get all the nomenclature right, but a 60-foot wall of stainless steel where each seal of the armed forces branches, but also police and fire, are cut, that's right, Miss Barbara, are cut out of stainless steel. It's a 3D effect with lighting behind it, and they all have a unique color, and the greens and the red. I mean, look at this thing. Absolutely remarkable. And the presentation that goes with it, like I said, it's 3D. It's something that they actually did it for, if you want to look up an example, they did it for the police department in Los Angeles. And there is a version of it, not this, but it's a similar art style. And I think this art style, I think Tim is going to go down as creating a very unique type of display because this is a monument that is sort of modern, but also classic. And just fits Branson so well. The lights, everything about it. It's awe-inspiring. It's really cool. Presentation is amazing. And just wait till you guys see this thing.
I watched the video, it was like a 20-minute YouTube video, and the village, that really, I mean, the wall, obviously, but the village and all those semis and all the interaction that you can have with the kids and stuff was really mind-blowing. But also the work and the detail. I mean, you're talking about like the seal that has the eagle on it there, like every little feather, the process of cutting that, sanding it, coating it, dipping it, all the different stuff, and then going back and polishing it, and then cutting the hose and making sure it all fits and sending it all. I mean, it was like, I mean, when you look at it, it's obviously beautiful, but how long did it take you from start to finish to get it, like just some metal to where it is now? How long is that?
It took 7 years to make it.
7
Tim's
years to
answer was
make it.
7 years to make it and 4 years to build it. Total. 4 years
Yeah.
of actual construction. Oh.
Another 4 years, a couple overlapped, was the actual making of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people online can't hear this, so.
More than millions of dollars. That we raised.
Yeah.
Well, I would encourage everybody to watch that 20-minute video. It gives you a whole new feeling and of how this all came together and how much work went into it. That was quite impressive. Yeah.
So the information is americaswallofhonor.com, and there's a Facebook page, America's Wall of Honor. Correct, Tim?
And just for the record, they've assured us that they are adding the Space Force on the next wall. Isn't that right, Tim? Yeah, that's right.
That we want the home to be Branson.
And I'll encourage you to start working on that next Commander-in-Chief logo. Just saying. Okay, so Kathy, I believe, and I'm not sure of the process, I believe we would be asking you to prepare something, maybe get Ben and Joe involved, present something to this board at the next meeting?
We'll have it ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim and Dan, thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is a presentation to the Board of Aldermen regarding the library ballot initiative on the August 8th, 2023 special election.
We will begin with a presentation from, what's your name again?
What's my name? Marcia Skimper Carlock. I'm the library director with Taney Hills Library, but I'm going to turn the presentation over to LaDella Thomas, who is heading up the campaign, and she does a fabulous job, so.
Very nice.
She gets to do it.
LaDella.
Don't go too far. Do you need me to
No,
state
no,
my
no.
address
Nope,
or anything
nope,
like that?
nope, you're good.
All righty. Thank you for having us this evening. We appreciate it. Thank you for having a screen here. I was wondering how I was going to do that. Let's see. There we go. So we are on the ballot August 8th for a levy for a public library. Currently, we have a private library that's privately funded by donations, thrift store income, as well as grants, small grants that Marcia works really hard to acquire. Oops, I want to get this right eventually. There we go. So our point of view is that a library is more than books. The Taney Hills Library is pretty landlocked, so it doesn't have room to expand, doesn't have any adequate meeting space. There are a lot of things that we could do with a publicly funded library that we're unable to do at this point. Library centers are a community asset, providing those digital resources, online access, enrichment programs, a number of the things that the woman that was speaking before had touched on, we would be able to do in the new library center. So the library's core focus would be to expand and improve access to materials, resources, programming, and technology tools, to build a facility to accommodate the growing demands of the community for enhanced library services and public meeting spaces. I don't know if you've ever held a meeting at the Taney Hills Library. We do for our campaign committee, and it's a 6-person room, a 20-person room, and 5-person room. So we're pretty tight there. It'd be great to have community meeting spaces that we lack here in Branson. Organizing rotating exhibits, visiting lecturers and art displays, extending the hours of operation to accommodate schedules of working families and students, and increase staffing. So we like to compare ourselves as the most patriotic city, the most Christmas tree city, all of those things. We're very competitive in Taney County. So if you look at the library centers in the comparable counties that surround us in our region, Camden County has 6 libraries. Stone County, right across the way there, has 3 publicly funded, very robust libraries. Christian County has 4, Greene County has 8, and Taney County has somewhat disappointing 0. So I'd like to spark your competitive spirit. There are 367 publicly funded libraries in Missouri. Taney County is one of only 4 counties in the state without a public library. And Taney County is the only first-class county without a public library. I'm going to say that again. We are the only first-class county without a public library. And if you think that people who are looking to move into this county aren't looking at those things that are available, those resources to their family, to their community, to their Etsy shop, and they need some support with the library technology, all of those things factor into people wanting to live here. My husband and I moved here 17 years ago. Our boys were 3. We wanted to come somewhere that was nicer and cleaner and less graffiti. We came from San Diego, but please don't tell anyone. We've been here 17 years. That's, we raised the kids. They just graduated last year from Branson schools. When we moved here and we went to the library, and, thank goodness for the private library and those folks that have ran it since 1933, it was very disappointing compared to where we came from. Not something that we had kind of on top of mind because our kids weren't quite in school yet, but that would have been a factor possibly about where we want to land our family. Not just because we had kids that were young and going to be able to use the library, but also the community that values values education, values early education, supporting homeschool, all of those things. That is very important to our core. So that would have, that might have played into our decision. And I think that we've added some value to the community moving here. I'm going to get it eventually. There we go. So a public library improves our community. It's one of our 4 talking points. It increases access to digital content and on-demand options and access to free Wi-Fi. We all know that we have really junky Wi-Fi in some areas of this community. So the library will be a place that people, like I'd mentioned before, someone with an Etsy store who's doing the side business or that's their primary business. I think there's actually a person who runs their Etsy store out of the library in the meeting rooms. So those opportunities are available to the whole community, not just kids reading books. Enhancing school readiness and homeschool support, because that's super important. We value education here. Offering summer programs for teens to engage youth year-round, keeping them off the streets. Providing seniors and individuals with disabilities opportunities for enrichment and social interaction. So one of the reasons I was pulled, my heart was pulled to this, this levy and getting a publicly funded library was because I am the executive director of the Stone County Developmental Disability Board. I'm a resident here, lifelong, or the time we've been here, resident here in Branson. But I work with people with developmental disabilities in Stone and Taney counties. And the people that we serve here in Taney County gravitate towards the libraries because they are so welcoming and so engaging and offer them a place where they can find a sense of belonging, and they do volunteer work, they have story time. It's just a really great partnership that we have with the libraries in Stone and Taney Hills Library as well. And also providing resources for business professionals and employees to enhance their skills. There we go. So this is the kind of bummer part about it. What about the Taney Hills Library? So if the levy passes, everything's great. A passing of the library levy will allow Taney Hills Library to transition its assets to the publicly funded library center while a new library facility is being built. If the levy fails, in no mincing of words, Taney Hills Library will close by the end of this year. That's not a scare tactic, it's not a threat, it's just a matter of fact. They don't have the operating money in the bank to carry them through past the end of this year. The grants, are just not coming the way that they might have used to come, more demand on resources, and it's just not working out anymore. A publicly funded library is the only way to maintain any library in Taney County. So how we plan to make it happen? Library district has been created utilizing the boundaries of the Branson and Hollister school districts. A proposed property tax levy of 18 cents per $100 assessed value of your real estate property will appear on the Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 ballot. If over 50% of voters vote yes, property owners within the library district will pay the levy annually with their property taxes, like the school and fire districts and the Ozarks Technical Community College. Frequently asked questions, just to nip those in the bud. Who can use the new library center? Everybody can. Those who reside within the boundaries of Branson and Hollister school districts will gain membership, free membership for that. Out-of-district residents will be required to pay an annual membership fee. That's still being debated. Up in, I believe, Greene County, it's $80 per year for a library card. And how much will the proposed levy cost me? I should back up. It's being discussed that ours would be much less than that. The proposed levy is 18 cents per $100 of assessed value on real estate and personal property tax. Based on the median home value of $170,000 in these two districts, the annual cost will be approximately $59. Of course, that's approximate. It depends on what toys you have and what kind of real estate you own. And so why the Branson and Hollister school voting districts? The vast majority of current library patients live within those districts. Any other school district is welcome to do the same thing that we're doing and come into the Taney County Library District at any time. Any questions for us?
Well, let's start off with questions from the audience. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments?
Gary Groman, 350 Wildwood Drive. I've been asked questions, and I have some questions, and seeing as how we're all together here tonight, I'll just shoot. Is it correct that the voters in the Branson Howard?
Gary, excuse me, would you pull the mic here towards you, please? Thank you.
Is it correct that the voters in the Branson Hollister School Subdistrict will be voting to approve two separate taxes with one vote, an increase in real estate tax and an increase in their personal property tax?
Correct.
What is the total amount of tax revenues that will be raised the first year if this Branson Hollister Subdistrict voters approve the tax levy on both the real estate and personal property taxes?
It will be approximately 1.6 to 1.7 million, depending on everyone paying their property taxes.
What is the procedure
Excuse me,
in place?
Gary. For those that are listening, that's Marcia who's answering those questions. Thank you, Marcia.
What is the procedure in place for ensuring that the taxes raised in the subdistrict are not used outside the subdistrict by other libraries included in the overall Taney Library District for operational or other expenses? Our subdistrict is part of the Taney. How do our voters know that those funds will be used inside our district and not sent out to Forsyth and other areas?
Yeah, because you're in a political subdivision.
So it's actually a political subdivision, and state statutes allow for those particular funds to go to that particular cause.
And that's it?
That's it. There's no wiggle room.
Is the Taney County Library Board elected or appointed?
Appointed. That was Marcia.
How many members of the Taney County Library Board are appointed from outside the Branson and Hollister school districts?
They cannot be. They have to be within the district. Marcia again.
Okay, not Taney County, just within our sub-district?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Who will determine how the public tax funds raised if the voters approve the tax will be spent?
This is Ladella. That is, the county commissioners appoint the board members, and the board members will make that determination.
As of this date, does the board have a tentative budget in place for the first year of operation if the tax is improved?
Yes, they do.
How much is that budget?
The 1.6 to 1.7, and that is, yeah.
The March 11th, 2022 article that set up the district reported that, quote, residents in other parts of Taney County would have the opportunity to join the library for a fee set by the, quote, Board of Librarians. What is the difference between the Board of Librarians and the Taney County Library Board or Subdistrict Library Board?
It's not the Board of Librarians. It will be determined by the library board appointed by the commissioners. So that was a little bit of a maybe a miswording.
Okay, thank you. Regardless, will you pledge that the fee will be at least as much per year as the average tax levy paid by the taxpayers in the subdistrict, as the average taxpayers in the subdistrict pay in taxes?
This is Ladella, yes.
If approved, it is planned that the current if approved, is it planned that the current Taney Hills Library will remain open?
Yes, yes, I understand you're correct.
What is the current total amount of all library-related salaries estimated to be paid in 2023?
For 2023, this year, as my father would say, not enough.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this one then. If approved, what is the estimate of all library-related salaries estimated to be paid in the first year of receiving the tax proceeds? Probably more, probably enough.
We're looking at $423,000 for that. And that includes a full-time library director, which we currently do not have.
Thank you. That's the only questions I have.
Those were easy. Oh, yeah, real hard.
Thank you, Gary. Is there anybody else in the audience? Come on up.
So In Springfield and in other larger counties, they have coffee shop accessibility, which is usually by design partnerships with local coffee shops. Would you guys be exercising to have a community-based feel outside of just a public library space? And what are your guys' current efforts to promote or facilitate any future development with private sector businesses like coffee shops?
Ladella, I'm going to riff on this unless you have a better answer. Since the tax has not been passed and the revenue has not been received in yet, it's very difficult to get specifics, but I know that this library center is meant to be for the whole community, engaging the community, where people come and stay and visit and enjoy each other and enjoy the atmosphere. So I think that would fit perfectly well in with what the future plan is. But I can't guarantee that that will exactly happen.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have any questions or comments? No. You have,
I'm the youngest of six. You'd think you'd hear me. No, I'm kidding. I've got a question as far as clarity. So I know that the percentage of property tax makes sense, but voting yes, is that all that's going to matter? Does 50% of the residents that have property have to pass in order for us to get the library?
This is Ladella. It's 50% of all registered voters who vote. So it's not specifically property owners. That's in any election.
Okay. She just said a good answer.
any other questions from anybody in the audience? Questions or comments? Hearing none?
Mayor,
What?
I'm over here. Thank you. I've just got one clarification, Marcia. You said, so are there two separate questions that are going to be on the ballot referring to the library tax? No. So it's one question, and it's asking about applying that levy to the personal property tax and the real property tax.
Correct, just like all other tax levies that people pay.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So it's just one question for the whole gamut.
Yeah.
The whole kit and caboodle.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do we know what the verbiage is?
May I add to that real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ladella.
This is Ladella. So every political subdivision, like I run the Stone County Board for the Developmentally Disabled. It's also a political subdivision, the same exact way this one is. Health department, fire departments in some areas, school districts. They're all personal property tax as well as real estate tax. It's every single one of those political subdivisions receives that same combination.
Clay?
I believe I've seen the verbiage, right? I mean, can you tell us exactly how the verbiage reads on the ballot?
Oh, rats, I did not bring that.
I saw it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's important. I mean,
If you
the
go-
way it's- yeah.
Does anybody have that on their phone? If you
Chad,
look
can
at
you find
the
that?
Taney County Clerk, or Chad, yeah, look at the Taney County Clerk's website. And if you go about halfway down the page, you'll see where it says sample ballot. And I'm going to take this time, Jonas Argis pointed out today at the chamber meeting, the language for the marijuana sales tax is very confusing on the county portion. It includes a section in there about personal tax. Yeah. What you're really doing, and I'm going to make a speech here for Jonas, on that Taney County sales tax of 3% on tangible personal property, people have confused that thinking that it's going to be on their personal property, their car, their RV, their boat, whatever. It is not. It's just on the sale of marijuana, recreational marijuana.
I've heard the same comments.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But we are 18 cents on each $100 assessed valuation on real estate and personal property located in the Branson Hollister Library School District for library services. And that has been a bit of confusion for people because I've had a few people say, oh, well, I don't live in the Branson city limits. If you're in the school district and you vote on library or board members for the school district, you will see this on your ballot.
So, Marcia, aren't there parts of the Branson School District that are outside Taney County?
No, I don't think so. But
Saddlebrook?
Brenda might know.
There's a portion of,
Yeah.
there's a portion of Saddlebrook that's in the district,
Okay.
and there's a portion outside the district.
Well, it's all about messaging, I mean, and getting it out, because you're right. I mean, you could read that and go, I don't want them taxing, you know, on my, so, and Jonas is good at, I mean, I've heard him say it, and he's not wrong. It's getting the word out about what it really is, not
Yeah.
how you perceive it.
Yeah,
The verbiage.
we agree.
Yeah.
Well, my family's been, as you know, big supporters of the library for many years. Somebody mentioned, one of the speakers earlier mentioned paying to come for training. So my shameless plug is I'm speaking at the library next week, doing a little training. So if anybody wants to pay to come hear me speak, I'm open to it. I'll probably donate some of it back to the library. So.
Probably.
So,
I mean, we're gonna test run it, right?
Cody, your class is filling up quickly, I noticed. So that's a good thing. In fact, I think there's a couple people here that have signed up for it.
So Cody, you'll have to have plenty of change for those quarters.
Yeah.
That's probably optimistic.
Any other questions from the board? Well, come on down and ask it. What's your name?
My name's Carmen Lawson, and I live in Branson. And my question is, all over the United States right now, the public libraries are having to deal with the issue of the curriculum of the material that's a little sketchy. So if we had a public library, would that be imposed in the Branson, Missouri area?
Good question, Carmen.
I am happy to answer that one. It's Marcia again. What libraries have done is they have put together what they call a material selection policy. And what that means is everything that is ordered is reviewed by a professional team of people that look at it. If a library member, and that's the key, it needs to be a library member, has an issue with a book, we have put in place, just like all other libraries, a policy that says you can question this book, you have to read the entire book or watch the entire movie or whatever, and point out what your issues are. And you know, sometimes it's just a matter of moving that item to another part of the library. It might be something in the kids' area that, you know, I hate to tell you this, we do not read every book that we order. We just don't. But if there is something that slips through the crack, they can fill out that material. I think they call it a reconsideration form, and then we'll review it and decide if it needs a different location or moved out. But a lot of attention is given, and we give such careful attention to what we do purchase because we know the community, we know our market.
So what you're saying is it will be left in the library, just in a different area?
Possibly. It depends, you know, if something like, I'm not going to say it. I was thinking of a couple of titles where it's like, we're not even going to go that road.
Yeah.
They're very popular, they're bestsellers. It's like, yeah, we're not going to do that one. And we do pay careful attention to any of the lists that are coming out as far as books that are being questioned through whether it's a school, most of them are schools. And we pay attention to those to see if we might own them, and frankly, we don't. Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Carmen.
Okay. What about the queer story time? That is a concern.
That one's easy to answer. That will not happen. Again, we know our market. Every person that comes to do story time for us, we vet them. You would be amazed how many people will come in and say, oh, I really want to volunteer. I want to read to children. What we look at is, do they have an education degree? Have they taught pre-K through elementary? And if they're reading specialists like Sue Reed, I think is here, and Alicia Risco, that is a real added bonus to have. And you know, they need to be skilled because we've got like 20 to 40 squirmy children in a story time, and we need a skilled person who can lead that. And also to address that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm involved with the Missouri Public Library Directors Association, even though we're not a real public library. They do allow me to be an interloper, an outlier. And I sent them a message and said, how many of you have done Drag Queen Story Times? And without a doubt, everyone came back and said, are you kidding? We won't touch that. We will not do that. That is not in our market. And that goes for Christian County, and it goes for Springfield as well, and Joplin. And I can't address St. Louis, completely different market.
Yeah.
Not a comparison.
Marcia, do you have Dr. Seuss books at your library?
You know, I'm certain people who shelve them will know, but I think we do.
Marcia?
Just asking.
Is there any chance that by becoming a public library, you would then be faced with mandates to perhaps do some national curriculum or state?
No, here's how it works with the federal funds. The federal government sets aside money for public libraries, and then they redistribute that to the state libraries. So the Missouri State Library receives a little over $3 million. And then at that point, the public libraries that are certified, and you have to have tax support to be certified, then you can apply for grants. And you decide what you want the money for, and a lot of it goes for technology, which we cannot afford. 3D printer, oh my gosh, that's high on the list of what people would like to have. Makerspace, would love to have space where they can come in and have access to, you know, high-end printing devices to do signs. So those are things that would really, book lockers. That's really what I want, is kind of like the Amazon concept, where if we have an outlying area, whether it be like way down by the Arkansas border, people can go into a convenience store, we give them a code, they open up the locker, and they get out the books that they put on hold. And I know Stone County did that. I think they received a grant, and again, it would be federal funds, and I think they received $16,000 for that. And again, we don't qualify for those grants.
Representative Seitz.
Yeah. Science fiction.
There you go. Thank you, Marcia, again. Boy, I was ticked when I went in to get my science fiction books out one year, and I went to empty shelves. I said, what's going on? Anyway, they replaced it, so we're good. The questions that Carmen brought up earlier, dealing with the Drag Queen Story Hour and inappropriate books at certain age levels and so forth, is something that I talked to Marcia directly about during the ribbon cutting that we had emphasizing this initiative. And she assured me that the values of Branson and Taney County would be adhered to, even if it does become a public library. I think the county commissioners appointing the board is very appropriate so that we do have some control over those types of issues. Just because it becomes a public library doesn't mean it's outside of Branson's purview or the values that we hold dear. So that was one of the questions that I asked Marcia and some of the people involved with the library. That was very important to me because we're dealing with that issue on a state level, especially in places like Springfield and Columbia, that might not share our values even though they did at one time. So I'm satisfied with the answers that she provided, and I'm glad Carmen came up with that question because it was one that I had as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on the board? Marcia, this is a messaging challenge, right? You need to get the message out and replace the rumors with facts.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Use the word levy.
Yeah.
Bob, you know how to do, oh no, I don't want to pick on you. No. You do the, no, I was talking about you do more of the rumors than the facts.
Oh.
But that's something else. Anything else? I'm going to suggest we take a short intermission before our next agenda item. Yeah. We all here? Yeah. Okay. I call this meeting back to order. Madam Clerk, I believe we're on item 12.
Item 11.
Oh.
Your Honor, the next item is a resolution expressing the Board of Aldermen's desire to provide financial support to the Branson Veterans Memorial Garden.
A motion adopting this.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and a second. We'll now get a staff report from Alex.
Good afternoon, members of the Board and Mayor. We ask for your support today in passage of a resolution expressing the Board of Aldermen's desire to provide financial support to the Branson Veterans Memorial Garden. Ms. Janet Evans spoke during public comment on our June 11th board meeting and gave a brief history of the Branson Veterans Memorial Garden. As you know, this garden is located in the heart of our city and is a living landscape and public tribute honoring all of those who have served our nation. Ms. Evans explained the garden currently runs solely on donations, and she had requested help from the city to assist in the operation of the garden. This resolution formalizes her request to allow the allocation of $5,000 from the city's general fund to the Branson Veterans Memorial Garden.
Jenna, thank you for being here. Did you want to say anything? No? Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments about this resolution? Any members of the board?
Jenna, are you sure that you good? Okay, okay.
Thank you for doing this, Jenna. Come on up. Jenna, this community owes you a lot.
It's like peer pressure.
This is huge. This is a big deal for us. And I'm actually speechless, but not. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Branson for helping us to continue our goals for honoring our veterans with this beautiful and very public statement. I think this is an important step for y'all. Thank you. I can't say, no, I can't even imagine what Ben Kendall is doing right now up in heaven. He's going, yes. One of my volunteers was here. He just left. Mr. Sisk is not here. But I appreciate you, and I just want to ask you real quick, if you would please just not drive by there, and I'm saying this out to the Branson community also, don't just drive by the garden. Stop, park, it's difficult to find, but come and park and go inside, sit down on the bench in the shade, and pray for your veterans, past and active duty. Thank you. We appreciate
Thank you, Jana.
so much.
Thank you. Any aldermen want to top that? Nope. Ready to vote? We're voting for the resolution?
Yes, sounds perfect. You
Voice-
guys,
Voice vote?
voice vote is great on this one.
Wow. Okay. All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Bless you. Thank you, Jana.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Your Honor, the next item is a resolution approving a landlord estoppel certificate assigning subtenant to Odom Branson Investment LLC related to the severed, amended, and restated Branson Landing Lakeside Shops North 1 lease for HCW Development Company LLC, and authorizing the mayor to execute the certificate.
Thank you. Now, motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll get a staff report from Alex.
Thank you, Mayor. Board and Mayor, we ask your support today in passage of this resolution. A current lease currently exists between the City of Branson and HCW for the Branson Landing. In 2018, the original lease was redone and trifurcated into 3 separate leases, varying parts of the Branson Landing. The city has been approached by the tenant to execute a landlord estoppel certificate. This estoppel certificate is in relation to the Branson Landing Lakeside Shops, known as North 1, per the lease. Given HCW is the listed tenant in this lease, any change they make to a subtenant has to come back before the city, who is the landlord in this case, in the form of a landlord estoppel agreement. This allows the board as the landlord to approve and sign off on any changes contrary to the original lease. This resolution approves the landlord estoppel certificate and authorizes the mayor to execute the contract.
Any questions, comments from anybody in the audience? Questions, comments from the board?
I have a procedural question. You know, since this is a resolution, my understanding is the closing is occurring soon. With this just being a resolution, it would only require one vote, correct?
That's correct.
So, Ally, what specifically is happening with this amendment?
Sure, so this estoppel certificate is basically certifying that first, actually, an estoppel certificate establishes the current status of the lease terms for a third party. So basically, generally, their certificate requests that the tenant verify the rent is current, the lease is being executed, and to make sure that the tenant doesn't have any claims against the current landlord. So what this estoppel certificate is doing is part of the normal process, as part of our lease that's part of the HCW agreement. So as I mentioned back in 2018, there's 3 different sections of leases agreements. This is in particular to the North 1 part of that. And what this is essentially going to do is allow for the subleasee, which is actually the tenant, which is HCW, to go ahead and allow for a subtenant, which is the ODEM group, to go ahead and take ownership of that building. We're essentially, as a city, are saying that HCW is executing the contract with us and is still essentially in that first position.
So they're selling the building to this investment group? Or they're leasing the building?
Sure, and I'm happy to have actually Bob Hewells is here to kind of walk you through some of that. Bob, would you mind? Thank you.
Bob, you're representing HCW?
Pretty complicated. Yes and no. HCW is the tenant, and they're a land tenant, so they owned the building.
Bob, if you would, into the mic, please.
5 or
Thank
6
you.
years ago, they sold the building. We went through this process and got an estoppel for that. It was on the old overall lease. We didn't have the triple lease back then. And that company is now selling it again. So they're just selling the buildings, but an estoppel is basically, to make it real easy, and I'll do it fast, is imagine if I was going to sell you a building and I said, here's a copy of the lease. They're paying $5,000 a month. It's a great deal. But I didn't show you, or I forgot to show you the amendment that was 2 years later that said that it's really $4,000 a month. And so you buy this property thinking it's $5,000 and didn't ask anybody to check anything. All this is doing is checking to say, is it really a lease? Does the HCW really have the right to do this? Do they owe you any money? Which they did, but I took care of. Typical Rick, you know. God love him. It's $6 because we hadn't paid it in 6 years, so I didn't know that it wasn't paid. We paid them and they didn't pay us, or the city. So, but that's all it is just confirming that the lease exists and that everything is okay and copacetic. If they owed you a bunch of money or if they violated the lease, then now's the time to tell the new guy so he doesn't buy it or so he fixes it.
So HCW is still maintaining the lease on the ground?
Yes.
Right, with us. The building is being sold. We're just verifying that HCW paid that $6 that you hadn't collected.
Among other things, yes. Okay. You're verifying even that the lease is still there. It's still for the same number of years and all those good things.
It's just I guess for me, like, you know, every time the landing comes up, there's always something that rears its head. And you know, I seen like no economic impact to the city. So I was like, okay, that's great. But then I'm like, wait a minute, these guys are business guys. Somebody's getting some economic impact somewhere.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that when we verify this, that it's not something that, you know, like down the road, there's like a grenade, like you pull the pin, it cooks for a while, then all of a sudden we either get hit in the face with it or we get levied with something that we shouldn't have been levied with.
I don't want to go too far because there's at least one lawyer in the room, and I'm not going to practice law without a license. But I think that if you were to ask an attorney, they would say that an estoppel can't change the terms of a lease. So they're not, even though you use the word amendment, it's not an amendment. This estoppel can't change the terms of the lease. We're just verifying that nobody lied to anybody. Yeah, and it makes it simpler than that lease that we have. It's down to 3 pages, and it just tells them the details of the lease.
Maybe we need like a study session on the landing or something.
I would love
You
that.
know, oh, yeah.
Like, there's so much that keeps hitting us in the face about that.
And
it just seemed like, you know, that was like boards ahead of us, but like, there's a lot of action down there and things that come before us, and it's like, almost like, yeah, we kind of need, because I heard once, like, the developer agreements would fill our boardroom there, just.
Well, I'd like to make an amendment to the fountain payment we're making every month.
And the fountain payment, yeah. So,
Let's
but
do,
anyway.
can we have a study session on that? That would be good.
Is that something that's?
I'm always delighted to oblige you, Board. And I think what I'll do is I'll reach back out to you and try to get a narrower scope and find out exactly what you're looking for, but we'll certainly have another conversation. You bet.
And as a matter of comfort, most banks would want this done even on the airport property. They would want an estoppel if they sell. It's just a requirement that big banks want.
Hey, Bob. When it says North 1, so are we just referring to that part, like on North Beach Park, the new part of the landing, or it's the entire?
Yeah, I've never heard it called North One until I saw the new lease. So we call it Lakeside Shops. It's Cadoba and Pi Phi, well,
You got it.
Fleiss, and all those three buildings. Just those three.
Wait, the 3 leased
Yeah.
spots, so it's, okay. Because there's multiple buildings there
Yeah,
across that way, right?
there's 3 buildings and and I think there's 12 tenants.
It's all shops in the 3
Yes.
buildings.
But it's just the one building?
No, it's all
Oh,
three.
it's all 3 of them, okay, good.
Yeah. I know, we just had to make it as confusing as possible.
Bob's going to be at that study session, by the way. Yes, you can.
So included in your packet that you all received was the 44-page agreement.
53 page.
Then I didn't read it all. I only read 44 pages.
It's 53. 44, 53.
I'll go back and read the rest. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, is this a voice vote?
Yes, sir. Voice vote.
Well, I'm seasoned at it now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, you're looking at me funny?
No, I'm not. That was
Oh.
not a funny face.
Opposed, same sign?
Good face.
Ayes have it.
Your Honor, the next item is the first reading of Bill Number 6332, an ordinance approving the 2023 salary structure and pay guidelines for the City of Branson Utilities Department.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6332. Do I have a motion to approve this bill?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a report from Kendall. Hello, Kendall.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for having us tonight. Chad, are you able to pull up the presentation, the PowerPoint? It's there. Oh, yep, perfect. It blended. I thought it was the other one. Okay. So I'd like to start off with a few statements here, and I want to thank you for allowing us to bring before you an opportunity to set a path for Branson Utilities in which we believe will promote a stronger and healthier utility, a key component which sustains a way of life we've all benefited from, residences and commercial businesses included. Infrastructure is one of the key components which built this nation. Infrastructure such as water and sewer provides life, safety, and economic opportunities. Since the salary adjustments, which was brought before you last fall, we have faced significant personnel challenges over the last 8 months. We continue to face challenges of attracting qualified people to staff our utility. We continue to struggle with retaining newly hired staff as well as seasoned staff. I want to provide you an example of how years of this struggle has affected Branson. Our staff has worked diligently at shifting from a reactive state to a proactive approach to maintenance. However, with being unable to attract and maintain people for our positions, it causes us to remain reactive on many levels. At the end of I got an example, a recent example. At the end of May, we experienced a sanitary sewer overflow, which resulted in a notice of violation from the state, and the postponement of use of a popular waterfall trail while cleanup efforts were made. The risk of sanitary overflows can be greatly reduced by proactive maintenance, such as easement clearing, video inspections of mains, manhole inspections, and sewer main cleaning, all of which requires the many vacated positions we currently lack. With the water and sewer utilities being more scrutinized by regulatory agencies, it has become even more vital for us to be fully staffed. I am proposing a new salary structure with the following goals in mind: to create a competitive edge to attract and retain qualified staff, to provide growth opportunities within the department for staff, and to reduce compression within the department, and to promote staff members which have been identified as working outside their position description. So three points I wanted to accomplish with this slide, and as one with the qualified applicants. So one of the major challenges we continue to face is a critical staff shortage in the water and wastewater workforce. This has been an ongoing issue for the last 10 years, and the recent pandemic accelerated the retirements of several in the industry. So this is not just a Branson issue, this is a nationwide issue. Two, the retention of staff not only helps strengthen workflow efficiencies, but also saves cost on constantly training new staff, freeing up staff capacity to focus on preventative maintenance. And then three, I believe wages are playing a key role in our challenges to attract and retain qualified applicants. So with this slide, we wanted to highlight a quick snapshot of Missouri and where we did a quick research on ZipRecruiter, and it shows how many vacant positions are currently on the market right now in the state of Missouri. There's quite a bit out there.
Wow, that's just for what's posted for the state, right?
That's just posted for the state, and that was as of July 1st. And again, that's just one third-party company that's tracking these. So this just a small snapshot of that. And I apologize, I don't have a history for you to really gather this consensus of where things have went over the last several years. But I could tell you that being involved with the city for 23 years, over the last 15 years being more involved in hiring processes and in tune to that, we've noticed that most of our applicants that we're getting have little to no experience. So we're having to train these folks up, which we love to do. We love to share our knowledge and give people opportunities. But on the other hand, it creates a struggle for the utility. It costs the utility to do that, and we want to be good stewards of the funds that we're allowed to use. So on this side, we wanted to highlight that even the EPA is acknowledged the challenges the nation faces in the water sector, and they have this initiative that's they're asking a call to action. If you look at the bottom left of the slide, you'll see our 2020 to 2023 employee turnover rate. We had 31 employees leave our utility in this time frame. 9 of those were retirements. But however, 22 of those was resignations, and you can see the average years of employment of those resignations was 1.7 years. So they're coming on board with us. We're spending a lot of energy and effort in training folks, and they're leaving us for really most of them are leaving the industry. They're leaving the industry for better paying jobs. Overall, what that equates to is about a 61% turnover rate for us over the last several years. So in this slide, we wanted to get a snapshot of where we're at today, and we have 60 positions. We are at 49 currently. That may have changed. We have one person, thankfully, starting next week as an operator trainee. We have 11, and this, as of when this was created, we had 11 vacant positions. So it was sitting at about 18% vacant. And longest serving employee is a little over 28 years. Shortest serving employee is really at 0. We just hired somebody. And then average years employed is 8 years, a little over 8 years. And I want to highlight that number a little bit here. And as you look in below the slide here, on the bottom of the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see that we have a number of employees that are eligible for retirement, especially in the next 2 to 3 years. Those staff members have been here for 20 plus years, almost 30 years. So you can imagine when those folks do retire, our average years of employed is going to drop considerably. It's going to start dropping that number down and closer to that 5-year range. And then really, if when you experience a utility and experience the skills and ability needed to function in that capacity, it takes at least 5 years to get somebody up to speed in this industry. I would be more comfortable with an average of around 10 years to 12 years. Just because of my past experience and seeing those folks that are in that 10 to 15 year range even, on how well they performed, how efficient they perform, and you can rely more steadily on them because they just have experience. They've experienced a lot of many different things, and you can't teach it all in one year or 2 years or 3 years. It takes several years for situations to pop up, and we try to incorporate training for all that when those unique situations pop up.
So Kendall, before you change slides, any business owner will tell you employees with less than 1 year, 21, a third of your staff has been in your department for less than a year. And in your department, it does take several years to get up to speed. I'm going to say that's a losing proposition. And any business owner would tell you that.
Yes, yes. What we're experiencing, and no discredit to the folks that's in this audience or those that haven't been able to make it here tonight, but the simple truth is it takes experience to operate water and wastewater facilities. Even if you hire an experienced operator from another facility, that facility may have a differently designed treatment system, and it takes years to learn the sounds and the reactions of that treatment facility. Even in the water distribution system or the sewer collection system, the problem areas that become attuned to those so that you can focus efforts on those items. So it takes years to learn that. So even for experienced operator, we don't have to focus so much on the skills and abilities, but they still got to learn the ins and outs of Branson. And Branson's unique in our system. So a big part of this is budgeting. And the existing 2023 budget book personnel services was slated at $4.6 million. Our rate model personnel services, so if you're familiar with our processes, we have our budget, but then we also have a rate model that I bring to the board every year, and we have a public hearing on setting rates for the next year. So in that rate model, it is a model that's built to look out ahead not only of the year in focus, but also 5 years and even 20 years out. It helps us manage our funds. It helps us to prepare for upcoming capital. And so that rate model, we had a little over 4 million plugged into the 2023 rate model as what I'd say normal personnel services. And then also as part of the 2023 rate model, I had built in additional salary adjustment and new positions, which totaled out to $1.1 million. Now, when I brought to a rate model to you last year, so that, let me back up and say that totaled out to $5.1 million, over $5.1 million that we had in the rate model for personnel. And we only budgeted $4.6 million. The last salary study that was conducted, it didn't touch the funds. It was a fraction of the funds that I had placed in the rate model. I placed those funds in the rate model because I didn't have information on what the last salary study was going to entail of. I had to make an assumption based off of the information we was providing and what our goals were to be prepared for what we hopes to get to what we're trying to accomplish today, and it didn't happen. And so at that time, I took a step back and I wanted to wait and see how the new salary study at that time affected our department. And then over the last 6 months, diligently worked towards creating a new salary study because we were seeing the numbers. We wasn't seeing any changes. We've had positions open since January 1 that we still haven't hired for. So that accelerated this effort, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to bring before you a new structure. And looking at the differences of what I placed in the 2023 rate model and with this new salary structure, the overall cost in the actual rate model itself, I'm roughly short about $100,000, give or take. Now, I want to keep in mind that the number that's in the rate model figures for a full year, fully staffed. So I've got 6 months here, I haven't hired staff.
Right.
So in actuality, I'm probably not in the hole like that. Right. And I don't have that number for you at this time. I need to refine that with Ben and Haley a little bit. But I can confidently say that if I can afford the whole year, I can afford going forward. When I know that I haven't, again, spent half a year's worth of dollars on vacant positions. So I know I can afford this with the rate model that's proposed. Another key thing that postponed me, I actually promised these guys, I promised my staff I would take this to you guys back in April, or actually early May, and I wasn't comfortable at that time. However, because I needed to know 2022 year-end numbers, and Kathy and Ben and I and Alex had a meeting. We got to that point, and I was comfortable to bring it forward. And as I was placing the numbers in the model, and I did a projection model for 2023 of where we're going to end up at. And last year, when I presented the model to you, you guys approved a 12% rate hike for water and a 10% rate hike for, or I should say increase, a 12% increase for water and a 10% increase for sewer. And then as part of that 5-year plan that I displayed to you guys as part of that model, for 2024, it would have been another 12% for water and another 7% for sewer. However, with the numbers that we received from Ben and the numbers that have been inputted into the model with this salary structure, with the efforts of our staff and capital equipment numbers, I've got that number, that rate increase on the water side down to roughly around 8% from the 12%. So I'm dropping. Now, again, this is projections. On the sewer side, we're doing really well on the sewer side. Sewer side, really, I can go for a 2% increase. Back to normal, back to where we're really sustaining well. Water's been a struggle for many years. And what's hurt the water is when I say hurt, what has affected the water has been our efforts of being proactive in maintenance, and we included our water tower maintenance program, which was a large dollar number, but it's needed, it's vital to keeping our infrastructure sound. And the other hit, or the other increase to the water side is the salary study, or the salary adjustments. But again, for the reasons I stated previously, I believe it's well warranted and well needed for us to stay up with our utility to continue to make us stronger and healthier and be able to comply with the regulatory requirements. And right now, I can honestly say I'm not. I've got valve exercising, hydrant inspections, many things that we're unable to keep up with because we just simply don't have the staff. And once we get staff, fully staffed, we end up losing people, and we're back to square one, back to reactive state.
Kendall, before you leave that slide, can you help me understand the two bottom numbers? So it says different new proposed 2023 budget.
Certainly, yeah.
And then can you help me understand those two numbers?
Yes, so the $1 million number, if you take the 4.6 that was budgeted, and then we have the new salary total, so the new structure with staff equates to $5.35 million. We also have to add in there $350,000 in support to other department salaries. So we pay for positions in the finance department, and we pay a portion of positions in the engineering department for support. So that comes to a total of $5.7 million. So if you subtract the 4.6 that was budgeted from that 5.7, you get to that $1 million mark. So that, again, that's a budgeted number, which that's a huge increase on budget, right? But in my world, I look at the rate model. The rate model is what shows us what we're going to do with, shows us where we're at with the funds that are coming in as part of those rates, as part of that rate structure. So that's why I wanted to highlight before the rate model and where we was at with it, and that I was prepared for this type of salary adjustment back in 2022 when I presented you to the 2023 model.
So basically, just in taking the proposed increase would be the $1 million number, but factoring in the rate increase we did, it would really be more around that $103,000.
That is correct,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kathy, if Ben was here, what would he say?
Ben has been very helpful to us to sort through, like Kendall had expressed, how he's had to do it in the past. I would equate it to kind of a pin the tail on the donkey exercise, where poor Kendall would be blindfolded and spun around 3 times and told, here's how you got a budget now. You know, I mean, he just was not armed with information that was current. He didn't know how much money he had versus projections, and it was very difficult, as you all know, because you were here. I wasn't in the past, and so it's a new day. Finance is working with all of our departments now in the budgeting efforts, worked really hard with Kendall. Kendall has been working on this probably before I knew this 6 months ago, but for the last 6 months, we've had regular conversations. And I want to add a couple quick things, if you wouldn't mind. One is I'm really coming from the regulatory world, right? Because I come from the state reg agency and the EPA in my past. I just want to share how important it is that you are fully staffed and you are taking care of these preventive maintenance requirements, because there's big trouble if you're not. So that's number one. Actually, that should be number 2, because the first thing is to protect public health and the environment. That's the number 1 responsibility of our utilities. For me, city government, I've talked about this before, it's public safety and then public utilities. Those are our 2, like the main things that people expect from their municipal government, right? Is that we're going to provide clean water, people will continue to be able to flush their toilets, visitors and residents alike, and for economic development. All those things are so important for economic development, what his team does. These are highly technical jobs that have no glamour. There is no sizzle, there's no glitter, there's no glitz to this, but they're expected to have certain certifications, regular required trainings, and frankly, I think what we've served as is kind of a training board for surrounding our competing communities as well as the private sector. Now, we can't get necessarily to where the private sector is able to get, but I think we're a long way there. It's not the end of this. It's one spoke in the wheel. This won't solve the staffing problem, but what we are also working on is bringing some national attention from EPA on potential training opportunities in Southwest Missouri to bring some innovative private sector training here, maybe establish something with a partner at OTC or whomever it might be that might be interested, because it is a national crisis. Young people are not getting into this field. So we at least have to do what we can in municipal government. This is our first step. And Kendall, you've worked so hard on this. And to all the men and women in our utilities department, and everybody that does this type of work, but in particular this for tonight, I just want to thank you for your dedication, because again, it's a thankless job. You don't think about clean water and sewer unless it quits working.
That's right.
And by then it's too late. So thank you to everybody who has spent years of dedication, late nights, being on call, et cetera. It's extraordinary, and you should know that your work is very well noticed tonight.
It is super important, right?
I have come to learn and appreciate that your department are unsung heroes. Just what Kathy said, right? The importance of what they do, nobody talks about until there's a problem, right? There's just an expectation that it always works 100% of the time, right?
Well, and as
go ahead.
as unpopular as it was to do the rate increase, right? I mean, I know you even kind of struggled bringing those numbers. I think for all of us, when we considered that, you know, the most important factor in doing that was to be able to do this, right? Was to be able to get you more competitive with salaries and support these folks to do the job that they're doing. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a tough pill to swallow to talk about the percentage, although the actual dollar amount wasn't that significant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you heard, you know, historically we've done 2% per year, and now we're jumping up to 12. That wasn't really a popular thing for you to have to bring forward, but it was so important to be able to do this, and I think that's why we got behind it so much. It was conditioned on, this isn't just the city trying to make money as a, you know, like a private entity would. This is a city trying to keep up with salary issues, and so we can pour this money back into the employees and what they do and keeping this running. So, yeah, I mean, you know, 12, 10%, those were not great numbers to have to deal with, but to be able to see this on the other side is really what it was about.
Can I, Kendall, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is there if I filled out an application, 0 experience for this department, what is the entry-level hourly rate?
Okay, so currently, and I can get to this, I got another slide here that's going to show our actual salaries, our proposed salaries.
I'll wait.
And if you can hold that just for a moment, because
Holding.
That's a great question.
Holding.
I would like to add real quick on your Ben question or a finance department question. So I learned a little bit and I grew a little bit as a director and figuring salaries and the benefits and the FICA and the retirements and all that. So I reached out to Ben and Colby and got a hold of their spreadsheet that they used last year for figuring employees' salaries. And so I used that model to base this salary study off of. So I wanted to make sure I was as true to the numbers as possible, doing those due diligence. Again, as Kathy had mentioned, I've had many conversations and I've looked at this over and over and over again, and I'm really confident in the numbers themselves. So.
Let's turn the page and show us the numbers.
Yep. Chad, can you help with the next exhibit, the salary structure exhibit, please? Sorry.
Kendall, before you launch into this,
yes.
Okay, because this is the third rail right here. So I just want to address something quickly for the board and for all the employees that are listening tonight. One is, I've talked about the importance of utilities and public safety. That doesn't mean that I don't think every part of city government is very important and valued. Okay, so I want to make sure I said that for the record. The other thing is the funding mechanisms are different here, right? So we've got funding mechanisms that the income is brought in through rates, through separate rates versus the general fund dollars. So there's a difference there that needs to be noted. But I also want to say that where we've got very similar job descriptions or classifications, if you will, grades, to other parts of city government, I'm going to be working with our other directors to try and make sure that on those similar types, say office specialist job, for example, or office assistant, that there's as much equity there between departments as possible. So I wanted to make sure that that's said for everybody that's listening tonight, to the department heads or the division or department directors. I also want to remind them that if you have, and some of you do because I've had these conversations, some of these jobs that are more technical or specialized, kind of unicorns, et cetera, or people that we just can't get people in the door, like what Kendall's been facing. We've been having conversations, I have with a couple directors, and of course my door's always open for other directors if they're seeing those same crunches like what we've been going through. Thank you for letting me do that.
And I know we're taking a lot of
Thank you,
time on
Kathy.
this, but I think I'm sorry, Mayor.
I just thank Kathy for her comment.
Okay. I apologize for taking so much time of your night, but I feel obligated to give you the background and the structure of this. So what I did was I actually, you'll see the titles of the positions to the left, and then I have proposed grade. The proposed grade, if you remember, the city has a grade system, and it was like started off at 11C and go on up from there, right? Nobody knew what the C meant. It was just out there, right? So with our structure, I knew that it could cause some confusion, and quite frankly, I needed to create my own grade structure to make this calculate out correctly, and so I put a U behind it just so when somebody sees a grade number, they know it's for utilities. So simplistic, that's where the U came from. Nobody knew where the C came from, but that's where the U came from. So I started with my lowest level position, and I want to tag on to what Kathy had just said about the office assistant 2s, office assistant 3s, and office specialist, and the office specialist 3 positions. Those positions, except for the office specialist, I think it's bumped up just a little bit higher than the current office specialist with the city. But the office 2, office 3, and office specialist 3, or excuse me, office assistant 2, office assistant 3, and then the office specialist 3 positions stayed the same as the previous salary study. I did not change those. I didn't have the background, the research in being able to modify those numbers. I didn't feel comfortable with moving those. However, my existing staff that I have, I've identified what they are doing on a daily basis, and the workloads that they're doing, not only the loads, but the skills and abilities that they're putting forth towards their daily task. And so I've definitely kept that in mind, and I'll talk about that here in the pay grade or the guideline proposal here in a minute. But what my focus was to, at the field level staff, of what we see in our salary assessments of not only municipalities, but more so on like the private water sewer districts, the private water systems and sewer systems that we have to compete with. For example, our utility worker 1 positions, I started them, or our entry-level field positions, I started them off at $20.45 an hour. I've seen other neighboring companies that are private start their folks, similar positions, off at $25, $26 an hour. So I'm still below the private sector, but I would say I'm high on the municipality side. And I do that for a reason, is to be more competitive, to try to attract folks to us. And so I took that starting field entry level positions and started to build the structure from there, creating a decent equity between positions. So when somebody moves up into more responsibility at a higher level, they're getting a decent raise, I would say. Instead of cents on the dollar, they're getting $1. And that equates out to more than that, just for caveat there. But just for example, we've had people that were lead operators in the past that moved to a supervisor level that end up making almost the same amount of money because they didn't have overtime, they had more responsibilities, things of that nature. So we were very compressed in the structure. And so what this structure does is it decompresses us some. It provides growth opportunities. It provides equity between positions so that it promotes more growth within the division, within the department itself. Chad, can you go to the pay grade or the guideline exhibit?
While he's switching that, I got one more question.
Oh, okay,
do you have any idea, and you don't have to go into specific numbers, but we've all been celebrating the idea of these raises, but do you have any idea what that's actually going to look like, just kind of on average? I mean, if we're talking $100, or these guys sitting out here saying, yeah, idiot, you really didn't give me a raise.
Well,
like what's, is somebody going to see an actual difference?
A significant difference?
Yeah.
well, that was my question too. I mean, that's proposed, right?
Yeah, this is if somebody came in as a new employee, this would be their starting wage.
This is that's what it is now?
No, this is proposed. This is what we're proposing.
I'm curious to see what the numbers are now before the difference.
Okay, I don't have those numbers to share with you right now, but for example, I didn't touch base on your question a while ago. For example, the utility worker 1 position starts off at $17.46 an hour. Currently. And so that would jump it to $20.45 an hour.
Okay.
To give you an example.
Yeah, thank you. Because that's kind of the same thing you're asking too.
Yeah, I mean, you could give somebody a nickel and call it a raise, right? So I just was wondering if it was significant or.
And there's more to it, and this is where the proposed general pay plan comes into effect. Number 1, it talks about definitions. Standard definition in A for a 280-hour employee, same as the last salaries pay plan guidelines. B, I added B in there. So I wanted to have a definition for ad pay. So we do pay ad pay to our staff for their licenses and certifications. So as they gain in licenses, we pay them for their efforts in obtaining those licenses and retaining those licenses. We also, what I added in here was hazard pay. I'll be open. I think these guys will hear it for the first time, but I'm exploring the option of ad pay for sanitary sewer workers. It's they day in and day out have to deal with the muck, and as far as what that looks like, I've got a general idea of what'll cost us. However, I've talked with Haley, and we've got some other ideas and thoughts there. So we're going to work on those details further. And I have been transparent with our staff in saying that this right here is the core structure that we're trying to get approved tonight. And then the next step is to revisit our ad pays, revisit our shift differentials, those other things that we've used to help try to retain folks and attract folks into the city. We're going to revisit those as well and discuss those further. So I wanted to add that definition in there. Section 2 is the same. And Section 3 is also, Section 3 is also the same as what was previously presented last year. Number 4 is where I want to say the meat and potatoes comes into effect. I am aiming for an implementation to take place July 29th. That would allow for a second reading on the 25th, and then we can adjust payrolls on the 29th, and they would see the fruits of that in their second check in August itself.
Kendall, Stephanie sent me the current pay grades if you did need to reference those.
Okay.
Just let me know if you want to.
Let's see, employees will be placed in their updated 2023 pay grades based on the compensation study reassessment as presented. That was the salary structure I showed you just on the last slide. And on C, existing employees, placement within their position's new pay range will be based on their previously held placement within their 2022 pay range. And I want to highlight that because that is a significant difference. Last year's salary structure, there was a formula that was created and based off of, it was called experience pay in that pay grade plan. And what it did is it, in my mind, and the employees' eyes from what I've heard feedback from them, it took away their experience pay. It cut it in half as part of that pay structure. So what I want to do is give that back to them. I want to move them, for example, when a person comes on board and you have a 20-step program, theoretically in 20 years you'll max out in your range, right? Well, with our pay for performance, we've had several folks that's worked hard in their pay for performance. It's been scrutinized very heavily, and they've done really well and got a little extra bump every year, and they're a little bit more ahead in their pay range. Well, they lost all that in the last salary structure. That was a big morale hit with our department. And so in the efforts of retaining my existing staff in the state that we're in with the years of experience of my staff, I want to give that back to them. That's the significant difference that they're going to see. And so if they was 51% in their range in 2022, the numbers I proposed to you, the 5.7 or the $5.3 million, it puts them back in at 51% in the new range.
Kendall, while you took a breath,
yes.
I also wanted to enlighten the board. Kendall's team isn't the only one that experienced that. The formula that was used at the end of results of the salary study and that kind of taking away that reward for years of service, that happened to everybody, correct? That's how.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, so that is something that we're working through moving forward for next year, just to make sure everybody knows everybody was treated the same way regarding that provision.
Do you have more, Kendall?
And Section D is similar to the past pay plans, so I just wanted to highlight the differences there. And after, as of that, that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. I'm really frustrated right now. Clearly, you have not been provided the tools that you need as a director to run your department. Clearly. And that's where most of my frustration is right now. I'm very confident that with just recently been involved with your world, how in the world, you must have sleepless nights. How in the
I'm sorry. I've been anticipating this moment for a while now.
I'll bet.
I don't want to get emotional. I'm very passionate about my career here at the City of Branson. I'm very passionate about my staff. I see young dads out there that are struggling to get by with the pay that they're at right now. I've been there before, and I stuck it out, and it's been very rewarding for me. And I'm trying to be mindful of that. I'm not just doing this out of that emotion. I'm doing it out of the numbers that I'm seeing, out of the results, and that's where I'm at today.
Kathy, what's the bottom line? What's the ask?
Alderman LeBlanc, did you?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a minute. Just by a show of hands, you guys, how many of you have stuck around because of his leadership? Raise your hand. Thank you.
How many of you have stuck around because of the exorbitant increases in pay you've received over the last several years? One? He must be the new guy.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's pretty incumbent to recognize that, you know, your frustration, I could feel that.
Oh.
But Kendall's only recently been given this information and the tools necessary based on what we've been able to kind of free up and allow them to kind of unbridle them so that they can make those things happen. But, you know, I mean, it just goes back to it because I remember that one presentation as I became like day one alderman, and the level and the quality of product that your department puts out based on tourism in our city. I mean, they're not operating as a small town. We're operating as a metropolitan area based on our tourism influx throughout the year and things like that. And these guys are keeping up with that. They're putting out a great product. They're processing a lot of, you know what they're processing a lot of. I won't say it, but understand that. And I asked that question because I feel his passion about, I mean, and I felt it from day one, but I think that's what's kept his department together is the leadership that he has. And this ask that you have is warranted. And I applaud you for stepping up into that. And I applaud you for just working through the numbers because it's important that we understand what those numbers are because, you know, there's a lot of things going on. We all know. And we got to make these decisions based on what the hard facts are.
Yeah.
Like feelings aside, the facts matter most. But even more importantly, the human component of what you bring to it, what all of these guys bring to it, because I know my pipes busted a couple of weeks ago, or the main busted by Alexander Park. At 2:30 in the morning, who were the guys that were there? Yeah, I seen you guys, right? Black pickup truck, go like, man, did you see the water shooting out the ground?
Did he offer to come out with a shovel and help you? No.
But I was going to call you, but they were already on it. But no, it's just the dedication and the leadership that you've been able to provide, I think is just stellar. And thank you for doing what you do. And thank you guys for doing what you do. So just ask, like, let us know what we need to do.
Kathy, what
to
is
make
the
this
ask?
happen.
Well, if I could just clarify one other thing, Mayor, with all respect, as you know how I feel about you and this board. You said a couple things I think need to be clarified. One is that Kendall hasn't had the tools and blah, blah. He has had them since October 3rd. I 100% guarantee that. So
But
I
that's
wanna-
just recently. How
Right.
long have you been the director of this
Oh,
department?
for sure. A long time.
How long?
But I only wanted to clarify that for the
No,
listening.
and what I
audience.
meant was, recently, with
Yes.
his interaction with Ben, has he just now been provided the tools to make decisions?
I would like to say this, that, you know, in 2021, I was designated the director in November of 2021. Rightfully so, I was an interim director before that, and I was glad I was provided an opportunity to earn that right and prove myself, and proving doesn't stop. It's a year-to-year ongoing effort, and it never stops. And I would like to say that when Kathy came on board, it was a breath of fresh air for me. And I remember our very first conversation, and when she started describing her background and where she came from as a utility, it was a breath of fresh air for me. I felt like I had somebody to support our department. And I'd like to say the stars aligned when some things took place. And I hate to mention those things. But as new people stepped into our lives, stars aligned, and here's where we're at today. And I've had a lot of support, and I really appreciate Ben and Baker Tilly and Kathy and all those around me. And I want to say real quick, I'm empathetic towards the other departments, Michael and his group especially, and I know this is going to wear on some folks or put some pressure on some folks. I know
Yeah.
they're working on their end. But again, as a utility, we're heavily regulated. We have regulatory items we have to meet, and we're just not getting there.
Yeah. We'll just take this from Michael's budget. Kathy, what's the,
Mayor, can I, just real quick?
You bet, Cody.
There's one other thing. You mentioned the experience pay going away when we did the new pay scale. And you know, speaking for myself, and I certainly don't speak for anybody else, but that was not our intention. So I really and truly don't remember that part being presented to us.
It wasn't.
And it was certainly not our intention. So speaking for myself, I'm sorry, you know, to anybody at the city that was affected by that, because obviously it was our name on that vote, but really and truly we did not have that component, you know, presented to us.
I believe this is the first I've heard of it. Yeah.
Kendall, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What you're asking for, is it just a Band-Aid, or is this what you really need? Are you asking for less because you want it to pass? I mean, what do you need?
Let me start with this and say that I'm proposing what I believe we can afford at this day and time. Now, I think we owe it to the city of Branson. We owe it to citizens and business owners to be good stewards of the dollars, and as a utility to provide a sound utility for this area, that we need to continue with our efforts to reevaluate, whether it's on a 3 or 5 year basis. We need to stay up on this because things will change. And I think we need to do a better job of staying up with this. And right now, I believe this has excited my people, especially the experience pay of giving that back to them. When looking at the numbers, it's a significant, well, you've seen, it's a significant number there. And it's, I believe, I can confidently say it's going to boost my department's morale. And so the ask tonight is for the structure that I proposed to you, which I showed you on the previous slide, and for this pay plan to be approved. And that will set the path for me to be able to do these things. One thing I have to, again, look at and possibly bring back to you is a budget amendment for the payroll side of things to add to this year's budget, keeping in mind that the 2023 rate model already figured in these dollars.
that's the question I was going to ask. So, and Kathy, you might be able to help with this. The numbers that Kendall is talking about right now, I'm going to assume Ben has that budgeted.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, okay, so the official budget that was passed didn't have, you know, the dollars in there that we weren't expecting to pay that much in payroll, okay, when the budget was formed. But the rate model and the amount of money that is in the accounts today, and that we've had 6 months of a whole bunch of open positions, leaves us a surplus of
You bet.
cash, if you will, to be able to afford to do this at this moment in time.
Yeah,
Very
see,
confident.
we could give everybody a 30% increase, cut the number of people in half. I'm just saying, it's the math. So Chuck asked a very, very valid question. Is what you're asking for, you say you're going to come back with experience pay, hazardous pay?
Yes, so the first step is.
I hope that doesn't take long to come back and ask for that. Personally, I think it's ridiculous. Anybody up here, anybody that's a business owner, you can't operate that way. You simply can't operate.
Gotta spend it to make it.
That's, guys, I'm going to reiterate what Cody said. When we went through the staffing study, our clear intention was to make sure that we're at or above our competing areas. And none of us heard the words experience pay was, I mean, that,
I don't know how that even slipped through. How did that even happen?
I don't know. So we're going to make up for it as much as we can.
Mayor, thank you, and Board, thank you for your comments and your support of Kendall and his leadership and his dedication to his team. It is truly a team effort, and I know that you guys will have as open of ears and hearts and checkbooks as we start to talk about the other departments moving forward. But this is not unique just to
Yeah.
utilities, it's just this is the 5-alarm
That's,
fire
yeah.
that we've got here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. So why don't we agree that we're going to vote on this, and you promise to come back chop, chop, hold his feet to the fire, right? Because we're asking him to come back with these other necessary things. You good with that, Kathy?
Indeed, I am, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions, or are we ready to vote?
Let's vote.
Let's vote. This a voice vote?
Voice vote.
Why don't we do a roll call vote on this one?
Are you, seriously? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just checking. I didn't know. I couldn't read. Fenton.
An enthusiastic yes.
Denham.
Oh, yes.
Cooper.
Absolutely, yes.
Howden.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
LeBlanc.
Absolutely.
Motion carries 6-0.
Hope you guys got the message.
Thank you.
It's the face of Branson right
Thank
there.
you, Kendall.
Some of you recruit your friends to come work with you now.
You deserve this.
Thank you.
You know you deserve it. Your spouses know you deserve it. And so now you can tell them you got it. Thank you very much for your service.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill number 6333, an ordinance approving the addendum with HDR Engineering Incorporated for the professional consultant services between the City of Branson and HDR Engineering Incorporated for the construction phase services of the Compton Drive wastewater treatment plant flood wall, and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
Oh, this is where that increase is. You've heard? Yeah, we can't afford this increase. We just spent all of our money. You've heard the first reading of Bill number 6333. Do I have a motion approving the bill?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Kendall.
This contract amendment is to extend our contract with HDR Engineering for the construction phase services to the end of next year. This amendment is also to increase the dollar amount by $25,000 for additional services provided by HDR during our final design of the project. The additional services included an electrical load analysis of the facility, a conceptual and preliminary design for the installation of 3 emergency backup generators, and administrative services and working with our grant funding sources. As part of that, I would like to say that we will be asking the mayor to sign a letter to go to SIMCOG to help amend our grant to cover for these funds. If that was unsuccessful, we do have tourism dollars budgeted for the Compton project that we could fund this out of. This amendment, if this amendment is approved, I am asking for a double read due to an existing contract expiring before the next available board meeting on the 25th. And I do apologize for being in this situation, as myself and staff are loaded down mid-year with many projects and capital management, which has slowed our ability to keep up. So I apologize for that, but I do ask for a double read.
Kendall, are these 3 emergency generators, was this like a new find?
That is correct, yeah. So during the design of the Compton Drive project, it came known to us that we could not build the wall without paying Liberty Utilities to move their electrical distribution system. So right now I'm working with Holly on that contract. That fund, or that amount is roughly $175,000 for us for them to move their electrical, their overhead portion. And then as part of the overall bid, it included the underground work within the Compton facility. So we're taking overhead, rerouting it to the south side of the facility, just inside the facility, get it over the wall, and then we'll shoot underground through the rest of the facility. Well, as part of that, we recognize the need, if we're doing underground, and we recognize that we didn't have enough backup generation power in the event of an emergency. So if there was a flood and Liberty had to shut down their power system, we could not fully function that treatment facility. So we'd still be in danger and jeopardize the redundancy of that plant. So I'd asked HDR to take a look at our electrical load. They identified where they needed to put design in transfer switches. It made better sense to design that and construct that now instead of having to come back and retrofit later on, which will cost us more money. So I believe it's a cost savings to us to do that now. And as part of that, they located where those generators would need to be located and give us some sizes, conceptual sizes for that.
Okay, so this 25,000 is for the increase in the consulting services.
That's correct, yes.
And that's the total ask on this bill?
That's correct, yes.
Kathy, don't you have the authority to approve this?
Well, it's a change to the contract, so we wanted to make sure it was run through the board.
And also there's a time extension too as part of the contract. So in the contract itself, we had a timeline established in that contract, and we need to extend the contract timeline.
Is that a different issue, or is that part of this?
That's part of this.
How many days of an extension? 300 days?
So we
500 days?
So we extended it to the end of 2024. So we were requesting to extend it to the end of 2024. The wall is slated to be finished sometime around September, October, but we wanted enough buffer in there just in case so that our contract didn't expire midway.
Okay, but is this 500 days in addition to the original timeline?
Yes, yeah.
500 days, that's a year and a half. That's almost 2 years.
I may have,
Cody, why are you laughing at me?
no, it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. So we got a year, 14 months to build the project.
What was the original estimated time frame?
For the contract,
Yes.
Kendall, this is their contract, though. This isn't the overall construction time.
that's correct. So
right?
we are actually, the engineering is complete. We're into the construction phase service now. And so we are actually paying HDR for an on-site resident.
Bless you.
Yeah. We are paying HDR for an on-site resident inspector to manage the sheet pile driving or inspection portion of that. And Michael can speak more to that. He's fluent in sheet pile driving, but he is very thankful that we put the monies in there in the original contract. It was roughly 170-some thousand, I think, for a third-party inspector to do that work, but it's specialized inspections. And so we had some delays in design, and a lot of it was due to some unforeseen circumstances like this electrical, and also with grant funding, managing the bid documents and going back and forth with CDBG and EDA and those two grant agencies.
Okay. When we had the groundbreaking with CBDG, right?
Yes.
What was the estimated time of construction when we broke ground?
It was from June, I think at the time we said June 23rd to September, into September.
Yeah, so 14, 15 months.
Yes, yeah, 456 days. So we're asking to extend it to.
We're asking to double.
No.
That's the point. The mayor's concerned that the end date of the project is going to be extended by 500-plus days.
No.
We're not saying anything like that.
No.
This is just the contract that we had with this particular firm, whose contract started a while back, but so the clock was ticking on their contract, but their work didn't get started until
Okay,
later.
because when I read it to say,
I understand.
construction was this long, we're asking for this extension.
No.
No. So the final engineering contract was for 570 days. That
That's it.
570 days ends before July 25th.
Okay, so when we broke ground, we were anticipating September of next year for completion. Now we're anticipating what?
No, we're still anticipating completion of the wall in end of September.
Okay,
Now, what this contract does, the 533 days goes from July 23rd.
Of
and
what year?
extends
of this year.
of this year, and extends HDR's contract for construction phase services to the end of 2024 to make sure we have enough buffer there, because the project's going to end in September of 2024.
So you're saying the double read is because that's going to expire here?
The double read is because it's going to expire before our July 25th meeting.
Okay. Okay, does anybody in the audience, except you guys with fluorescent shirts, does anybody in the audience have any questions or comments about this bill? And yes, you are included. That was the mayor trying to be funny. At least, yeah. And that was not a sincere laugh. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Mayor,
What?
that was fun. I move to read bill number 6333 for its final reading to expedite before the contract expires, right?
Second.
Aye.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? Any aldermen? Please vote.
You can voice vote on this one.
All in favor to approve a second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is a final reading of Bill Number 6333, an ordinance approving the addendum with HDR Engineering Incorporated for the professional consultant services between the City of Branson and HDR Engineering Incorporated for the construction phase services of the Compton Drive wastewater treatment plant flood wall and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
So you've heard the final reading of Bill 6333. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this matter, any members of the board? Hearing none. We're going to vote on this final reading of.
And this
Bill
one needs to be a roll call because it's final,
Okay, we're
which I will do if you're ready.
We're voting for the final read of Bill 6333, and Hillary, take charge.
Fenton.
Yes.
Denham. Yes. Cooper.
Yes.
Howden.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
LeBlanc.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Kendall, how did you end up on all items at the end of the agenda?
You can blame it on Hillary.
Who sets this agenda? Hillary?
I don't know why that's my fault, but I'll take it.
Okay, we're on the last item.
Your Honor, this is the next item is the first reading of Bill Number 6334, an ordinance approving the renewal of the contract with Public Water Supply District Number 3 of Taney County for water termination and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6334. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Second? Second. We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Kendall.
In short, this is a contract renewal of the Public Water District 3 water termination services agreement. What this does is allows us to shut off Public Water District 3 water customers, which are on our sewer system. It's been very effective over the last year. It's went from 222 delinquent accounts to roughly half a dozen.
This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, been very effective.
Yeah, long time coming. And there's no changes with our previous agreement?
Nope, same as the original agreement.
Any questions, comments from the audience? Questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, this probably qualifies for a voice vote.
You are correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Kendall, thank you very much. We hope to see you back soon. Let's do our reports. Alderman Fenton, any words of wisdom?
Mayor, I don't want to end on a sour note, but, and I already kind of mentioned this earlier, but I also don't like having egg on my face. And so, you know, I just want to reiterate that was not our intention, you know, that ancillary effect of the salary study and the pay adjustment. I don't think anybody intended for that to happen. So to you folks and utilities and everybody else, sorry that happened, and we'll make it right. So that's all I got.
So when we get approached by the other directors, we're going to say, we've already spent our money.
Unless it's Michael's, since he doesn't like Ward 2. So.
Ooh.
Sorry, everybody in Michael's department. He ruined that.
We're just not his favorite, that's what he said.
It's kind of saying the same thing.
Well, I know.
Ruth, any words?
Sure, a couple of things. I just wanted to say, I think I met Kendall when he first started working here. He is the same sincere, committed human being that he was on the day I met him. His commitment to the city and to his staff is something to be admired. Thank you so much, Kendall. All our directors, we are blessed to have the directors we have at this city and all the employees. It's amazing. And so my end to that one is administrator step, your experience, expertise, your ability to look at the city from 10 miles above, to see the problems that existed, what you've done in the short amount of time you've been here to help the city move in such a positive way, speed of business instead of government. You're very appreciated, so thank you. The other thing is, from the Planning Commission meeting that we had on July 6th, one item was a special use permit for the drive-through at property at 550 Branson Landing Boulevard. That does not move forward. It was just approved at the Planning Commission level. The other two items, we had a zoning change from low-density residential to entertainment for property located at 511 Dr. Good Drive. That'll be at our July 25th meeting. And also on the agenda will be a resolution recommending municipal code amendments to Chapter 94 of the Branson Municipal Code concerning drag shows. So those items will both be on our next agenda.
Thank you.
That's all.
Alderman Clay.
I do not, sir.
Alderman Howden?
Quickly, the baseball team, our boys, three-time state champs.
3 times.
Come on. So congratulations.
Did y'all
to those
catch
guys.
that? At the last meeting, we honored these guys. They were 2-time champs, and since then, they're now 3-time.
won? They
Yep,
won?
They won,
Yep.
3-time champs.
Nice. So
Yeah.
congrats to them.
Very nice. Thank you. Jeff? Ralph?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to Parks and Rec for all of the softball and baseball tournaments that have been in town. Actually had some people from my area of Louisiana that I just happened to see on Facebook. They were in Branson, so I messaged them, "Are you in my town?" And they're like, "Are you here too?" I'm like, "I've been living here for 25 years." But I asked them specifically, I was like, "Tell me what your experience has been." And they had nothing but, I mean, just glowing, raving reviews on, you know, from, you know, organizationally, how everything ran. The facilities were top-notch. I said, "Don't worry, they're going to get better, even better than that." And so they were super excited about it, so I was very happy to hear that and to report back to everybody that has any hand in all of that organization and just everything you guys do for the city. You know, I really meant that, like, you know, Kendall's leadership, Michael, all department heads, like, I think, you know, you can't scale the level of happiness that people can have when they come to work. You know, a paycheck's one thing, and that pays the bills and you know, gets you living, but when you can come to work and enjoy it, and I'm hearing more and more of that every single day, it's because of the level of leadership that you guys all provide. So thank you so much for that, and thank you guys for showing up, particularly when the water mains bust. Thank you.
Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick reminder for everybody here and everyone listening, we have our special meeting regarding the pros and cons of fluoridation of our drinking water in Branson. It's going to be this week, Thursday, in the chambers here, starting at 5 p.m. We've got invited speakers on both the pro and against side of the conversation, so we tried to provide as much balanced content as possible, and the public will be allowed to make comments at that meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Kendall, you'll be attending that, and I believe you shared earlier that when your department handles the fluoride, you actually have to be in hazmat suits? Is it a hazardous material? Show of hands, anybody here work with this material? Oh. Y'all enjoy that? Yeah. See you Thursday. Thank you very much. I want to give a sincere thank you to not only the directors. The directors are great leaders of their departments, but every single one of our employees. We can just feel the passion and caring that you guys contribute to make our city a better place. We get the accolades because we're up front. And we get shot at also, but we get the accolades. But it's because of what every one of you do. So I appreciate that. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Is that?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. This can be a voice vote. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Double dare, dog dare ya? Ayes have it.